Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
The internet is full of half-truths and all-out lies. We've all seen them, and many people on social media complaining about it. Here's your chance to show and prove. WorldAfropedia.com is a black-owned and operated encyclopedia. There are several thousand articles, but we need help. We can't uncover all the truth ourselves. So please, join us and become a writer, editor, or blogger for WorldAfropedia.com today. Every little bit counts. We owe it to the future generations to put the truth out there. Visit WorldAfropedia.com, the African-centered encyclopedia, a global database of African knowledge for the purpose of bringing about global African wisdom and understanding. WorldAfropedia.com.
Racial tensions are high after the last couple of weeks. The police killings of 2 black men and now 8 police killed in 2 separate attacks. These tensions can show up at work, too. NPR's Yuki Noguchi reports some coworkers are struggling to find the words to help make things better.
The day after 2 white policemen shot Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, Contonious Gill went to work and got into a discussion with one of his white female coworkers, whose brother happens to be an officer. The woman defended the police in the Sterling shooting. Gill, who is black, couldn't let that stand.
I didn't walk away because I want her to know that you're not going to say something that I disagree with or something that's erroneous, and I just leave you with your thoughts. Since you left me with your thoughts, I'll leave you with mine.
The conversation was intense but civil. Gill, a network administrator in Charlotte, North Carolina, says it was unusual. His white colleagues usually don't seem comfortable talking about race.
I think that people maybe expect a lid to come off or something, because, of course, I do have a lot of feelings about it.
He has a lot of feelings, in part because 3 years ago, Gill and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission won a race discrimination suit against his former employer, trucking firm A.C. Widenhouse. A jury found he was subject to racial slurs and threats to, quote, hang from our family tree. Race isn't just touchy for workers. It can also create problems for employers. Racial discrimination and harassment at work is illegal. And in the last 3 years, the number of such cases filed with the EEOC has increased. Even if an incident doesn't go to court, experts say employers that don't act fairly and decisively to punish racist behavior risk demoralizing their workforce and hurting productivity. And while free speech rights apply to personal speech outside of work, employers are increasingly concerned about how workers' online posts affect the workplace. For example, in the days following the Dallas police killings, the Nashville Police Department decommissioned 2 officers for inflammatory postings on Facebook. In one of them, Officer Anthony Venable, who is white, wrote, in an apparent defense of the Minnesota policeman who shot Philando Castile 4 times, quote, yeah, I would have done 5. Police Chief Steve Anderson told Nashville Public Radio the incident is under investigation.
He may have disqualified himself to be a police officer.
3 days later, another Nashville officer, Christopher Taylor, was decommissioned after posting a photo of the Black Panthers on his page. Howard Ross, a diversity consultant, says he saw similar conflicts in police departments and other workplaces boil over after the shooting of unarmed teenager Michael Brown in Ferguson last summer.
People were coming right off the street the night before, being out in a protest, and then working side by side with somebody, and the energy from the protest got brought right into the workplace.
Allison Manswell is also a diversity consultant and author of Listen In, a book about racial conversations in the workplace. She agrees heightened tension is finding inappropriate expression in the form of slurs, fights, or surly online posts.
There are some workplaces where the culture and the environment was already prone to this, so they have got their hands full right now. I can tell you that with absolute certainty.
But, Manswell says, the answer isn't to quash discussion. She argues it should be encouraged in a mediated forum. Coworkers should offer each other mutual support, she argues, comparing the shootings to other fatal disasters.
What's been happening around police brutality is a tsunami in the African American community. How might it feel for all coworkers to come to work the next day and to not acknowledge that there was a tsunami?
Manswell lives in Baltimore, where today a third police officer was acquitted, but 3 others still face charges in last year's death of Freddie Gray. She mediated a discussion between coworkers who shared their feelings about race.
The conversation was difficult. There were tears. I mean, literally, there were people in tears, but there was this high degree of understanding that came out of it at the end that was so worth it for everyone.
Contonious Gill, the network administrator, agrees. He says his conversation with his white colleague helped.
We haven't spoken about it since, but I'm not tense. I hope she's not.
Relieving that tension, he says, is the path to restoring civility.
These things definitely warrant discussion because, right now we are reeling. These things can't be set aside. They're not going to heal themselves.
Yuki Noguchi, NPR News, Washington.
I've seen similar situations in an office setting. As you know, I work for the government, and I've found that people have free time, and they begin to come and to gather together, particularly black folk. My question is, what is the correct codified way to respond, or to respond to this type of situation?
Talk about something constructive.
Well, I'm not really a part of that conversation, but I'm there because I'm in the office, and these people are there because they work with me. Okay. And they begin to talk about, for instance, the conversation went a couple of days ago about the woman was on the phone and she had gotten a phone call from someone home telling her that her child support check had come. And this was like 4th of July, New Year's all at once for her, because she said that she had not received the child support check in so long. So everybody in the office within a matter of minutes, because she was yelling and screaming, "Oh, my child support check had come." Everybody in the office, like she was like the next office over from me, but I could hear this. And these people constantly use the N-word whenever they choose in the office setting. Do I approach these people, or do I, because as of this point, I have just not done anything. How do you do? What is the correct code to deal with?
Black people use the N-word?
Yes, sir.
You can say that if the person is talking to you, you can say, I wouldn't use that kind of language because I don't think it's constructive.
I don't have a whole lot of conversation with them.
Okay.
But I'm there in the office because
right.
I see this going on.
Well, only when you have the type of conversation with them where you can talk to them and minimize conflict can you say anything at all. Okay. See, everything that you say to a black person is supposed to be in a way of minimizing conflict. You don't want to escalate conflict.
That's why I haven't said anything.
Okay, well, don't say anything as long as you think you will escalate conflict. Now, sooner or later, some black person will come and slide a chair up to you because you don't say very much. That black person will probably be in trouble because all these hyperactive black people is all over the office saying this and saying that. Sooner or later, they wind up in trouble with white people. And then they want to talk to somebody. And the person that they usually will talk to is the quiet black person because they figure that you kind of halfway do some thinking. And you're not always doing what the rest of them are doing. So what it is, they will come and sit down beside you and say, I got a problem down here. These folks are messing with me. And then they're ready. And then that's when you tell them about that particular problem and drop whatever else you think is constructive on them while you're doing it.
All right.
Now they're hooked. See, because what they usually get from the other black people that they always jawboning about is, man, you shouldn't have done that. I told you about going down there. You down here talking this random. You should be like me. I ain't never in no trouble except just that thing that happened last week. But that was a fluke. But so all right. Like the person said, oh, every time I look around, you're writing something down. You say, this is what I was taught. I was taught to write. In fact, I was told that if I couldn't write, I couldn't get the job. See? In other words, that's the law of compensation. Everything that they give you, you turn it right around and throw it right back at them. Every time you catch that ball, you throw it right back. Okay, so do you get the point? I think that was an excellent illustration that she made. And you write things down, just like you say, a person says something, say, oh, that's very interesting. I'd like to write that down. Repeat that. And then you put it in your... Now, I learned this myself, not from myself, but by observing some black people who held jobs and who people didn't hardly touch, by observation. And some of them didn't write things down, but they had excellent memories. Others wrote things down. But they were able to go to meetings and say, sir, I have a question. And then the person say, yes. And say, now, when that other incident happened on July the 3rd in 1952, and this is 1971, has that changed since then? Because I haven't seen anything written down where this has changed. And when Joshua did that on July the 3rd, such thing happened. Now you all are doing something different. I just like clarification on this. So you make that comparison, just like you were talking about. You make comparison between one situation and another. Now the only way you can do this, you either have to have an excellent memory or you have to write things down. I worked with a person once who had an excellent memory, and he knew how to pick out things that were important. He would see something happen that hardly anybody paid any attention to. He'd make a mental note of it. 4 years later, he would bring it up, right when nobody expected it, and completely floor everybody. I mean, tear up the meeting just on one thing and say, I'd like to say something. When so-and-so did such a thing on such a day and such a thing happened, I mean, that wasn't the way that was handled. Can you explain that? And then the situation that you have right today is turned completely inside out, and they have had to drop it. And I've seen him save a lot of people like that, and I've seen people put him on the list of being, hey, don't ever let you see this person do anything, and don't let him see you do anything, that you're not supposed to be doing, because he will make a note of it or he will remember it. And 5 or 6 years later, at a time when somebody's supposed to be on the spot, he knew how to get that person off the spot by making that comparison. Okay? Just by raising a question.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Thursday, July 21st, 2016. So I have been told. Workplace racism, our weekly session. The number to dial, 641-715-3640. The code 564943 pound. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Number again, 641-715-3640. The code is 564943 pound. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. You can dial in. Certainly you can listen live at Black Talk Radio Network. You can listen live at TuneIn. The address, it's on the Facebook page, tweeted it out as well. You can search, if you go to the TuneIn site, you can just do a search for racism, white supremacy. You can put in Context of White Supremacy. It will pop up. If you can't find it at TuneIn, let me know and I'll shoot you the exact address. I know some people said that they were having difficulties accessing the podcast. I think, or I know the server was having some difficulties yesterday for the live stream, but that got corrected yesterday. I checked it myself. That's working fine. So you should be able to listen live online, as I said, Black Talk Radio Network or TuneIn or wherever you generally listen live. And then the actual archives of the podcast, you can access that at iTunes. I checked it today. It's up to date with yesterday's program. You can get it at Blueberry, Stitcher.com. I posted that address on the Facebook pages as well. That also is up to date as of yesterday when we had Norm Stamper on the program. The archives are available at blacktalkradionetwork.com. I posted that address on the Facebook page as well. Lots of different means to access the archives, live or archived content. If you get confused, if you're having any problems, feel free to drop an email untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. Also on Twitter @untiljustice. Right on. Before we get to some of the folks who dialed in, who have commentary they would like to share, people wrote in commentary, and I again encourage, if you know that you're not able to participate live for the workplace racism session, feel free. You can drop an email and I'll read it on the program. If it's a problem, if it's an observation, just something you want to share, feel free. You can email, even if you email once we have gone live. I do make an effort to kind of check my email as we're going along so I can read it. If you'd like feedback from listeners, or just, again, something that you'd like to share, you can drop an email and we will make sure to include your commentary. So 3 different people wrote in. I will just say really quickly, that segment from NPR where they had the white coworker or the white employee, and he was enforcement. He was involved with law enforcement, and he was decommissioned because he said he would have fired 5 shots at, I believe, I don't remember the name exactly, if it was Philando Castile or Alton Sterling, but one of the black males recently that has been shot and killed. And he said he would have fired another bullet. And so they decommissioned him. They said they decommissioned a black person in law enforcement because they posted a photograph of the Black Panthers. I am not understanding the correlation. Bragging about firing an extra round at somebody, I can understand. Posting a photograph of Fred Hampton or Bobby Hutton, Asada Shakur, I could maybe kind of see where law enforcement would be upset about her because they're still angry about her being able to hang out down in Cuba. But I mean, posting a photograph, the breakfast program, I don't know what the photograph was, but if it's just some members of the Black Panther Party, and that is Dr. Afeni Shakur, if that's grounds to get you decommissioned, wow, I would want an explanation as to what the problem is. Why is this an issue? Fascinating. Anyway, I did check, just add that in as well. The book that was mentioned, I think I might have moved it off my page. Oh, there it is. Allison Manswell. That's the black female that they spoke with her in the NPR segment. She wrote the book Listen In, Crucial Conversations on Race in the Workplace. I have to check it out a little bit more. I will say that I was discouraged a tad because when I looked at her webpage, apparently she got a racist suspect to write the afterword for her book, Howard J. Ross. So I don't know how constructive this is or will not be. But it does give some of the tips that are in the book. The story provides insight to experience behind the metrics and scorecards, issues of black hair and what being a good fit means, contradiction of why height isn't an advantage for black males, words that make a difference in conversation, essential connection between Black Lives Matter, Black Money Matters, and Black Talent Matters. Those are some of the things that she talks about in the book. Again, it is Listen In, Crucial Conversations on Race in the Workplace, Allison Manswell. Go to her website, check it out if you are so inclined, AllisonManswell.com. All right, folks who wrote commentary in for workplace racism this week. I am a long-time listener, first-time writer, currently employed as an enforcement officer in a large urban northeastern city, and I also have the title supervisor. I've been doing this for 16 years and have 4 more years to go before retirement, white people willing. Your program, along with the works of Neely Fuller Jr., Mr. Williams, Edward Williams, I assume, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, have saved my career and sanity. When I first became an enforcement officer, I was very uncodified and confused. I would often argue with suspected race soldiers and would confront them whenever they did overt acts of racism. For example, I lost track of how many white officers I worked with that would not pull over or write summonses to white people. Needless to say, that made me very unpopular, and I was subjected to constant acts of terroristic behaviors, such as being written up, having my property vandalized, being given unfavorable evaluations, being denied training. I could go on and on. I eventually ended up suing my employer. The lawsuit itself went nowhere. However, the harassment stopped for the most part. I'm convinced that if I wouldn't have sued, they would have terminated me. Eventually, a coworker introduced me to the 48 Laws of Power, and that helped a lot. Simple things such as never outsmarting your master and never letting people know what's in your mind helped a lot and definitely brought me a few more years of employment. Eventually, another coworker introduced me to the C.O.W.S, and I have not been the same since. However, I'm still learning and do make mistakes, especially when it comes to gossiping with some victims, but I'm trying to do the best I can. Your suggestion, such as not hanging out with coworkers after work, is very important. Nothing good ever comes from not respecting sobriety. Amen. Also, cops are notorious for saying nigger when they drink. That's one less issue that I have to deal with. Also, not getting emotional nor responding to name calling can also literally save your job. Whites are very astute at pushing their niggers buttons when you get upset. They're the first to run to HR on some workplace violence complaint. Discretion is a huge part of law enforcement, and looking through my codification lens, all it really means is getting a free pass to practice white supremacy. When I was promoted to supervisor, I did not want to be like other victim supervisors on my job. The difference between a smart black supervisor and a not so smart one is that a smart black supervisor knows that white subordinates are off limits. I go out of my way to have a reputation of being by the book and very serious. I am listening to your advice and trying to be less aloof, but I generally keep it good morning, goodbye, and leave it at that. I keep my home life private and try to keep conversations with whites as constructive as possible. And I am never ever critical of other victims of racism, whether I know them personally or not. As for my style of supervision, I always have on the back of my mind that whites can get rid of me anytime, so I don't let the title go to my head. I follow the rules on the employee handbook and try to make sure I enforce them across the board. This, of course, has caused some issues with other victims because they expect, because I am black, that I should let them do whatever they want, since the white supervisors let white officers literally get away with murder. I explained to a couple of victims, you have just described the system of white supremacy. I can't do what they do. All of that is in quotes. I am very cognizant of reverse discrimination claims, so I go out of my way that everything is done according to policy, and I almost never deviate from it. Right on. Nevertheless, I have learned to have patience with victims. In some pointers to some of the listeners when dealing with the police, Neely Fuller is spot on when he says, don't argue, don't fuss, and don't run, and even if you do all that, expect to get shot anyways. Please don't believe the cliche of a few bad apples. That's 1,000% false. In my 16 years in law enforcement, if I worked with a white officer long enough, it's only a matter of time before I'm going to witness either some racist speech or action. Be very careful when dealing with them. When I am off duty, I go out of my way to follow all traffic regulations to make sure I don't get pulled over. And if I see one standing around, I walk the opposite direction. Victims from the area of the world known as Latin America can be a hit or miss, but in aggregate they are just as bad as suspected race soldiers. A good technique in dealing with enforcement officials is looking at the name tag and making a mental note of the name and shield number. Do not ask them for that information, since most race soldiers take that as a challenge to their authority, and they likely will lie on you, hurt you, or plant something on you. Even in this day and age of ubiquitous cameras, that sort of stuff still goes on. Enforcement officials lie, lie, and lie. That's not a bug in the system. That's actually part of the design. After the interaction is over, find out the department's internal affairs, inspector general, professional responsibility departments, and go file the complaint. Guys working at those departments are racist too, but at least you are going to be starting a paper trail. Report number 1. Report number 2. Make sure I replied on some. Okay. In the employee manual, the company I work for has the right to drug test us at any point. This is a corporate white-collar establishment. I'm not sure if most employees, white or non-white, know this. I thought that was hugely important because this is something that I've pointed out in states like Washington, Colorado, Oregon, where they have legalized cannabis, that employers, businesses in these specific states, they can still make drug testing a requirement for employment. So yes, cannabis is legal here, but you still might have to take a drug test to get a job, and if you don't pass it, then they don't have to hire you for that job. It can just be, well, you didn't pass the drug test. And I know that was something that Dr. Welsing had talked about as well, that she thought that was going to be another means of excluding black people from the workforce, even if they do legalize cannabis. And the importance of checking policy and procedure. There's 2 in a row who have emphasized policy and procedure. Last one. Let's see. Okay, last report. This is the male, this person wrote in before. Male listener in North Florida. About 5 months ago, I sent a report detailing the practice of racism at my current employer. I was passed over for promotion despite a lengthy background in my field, retail pharmacy. There is little to report in that arena. I have not had any issues with my new white female manager. I attribute this to the fact that we work day-long shifts, never overlap, and most importantly, the white female technician transferred out with my previous supervisor. Since her white technician's departure, it has been substantially less stressful. Let me share this week's trashiness. I occasionally work as an independent contractor in different pharmacy settings. This Monday, I worked in a closed pharmacy setting, doctor's office combined with dispensing pharmacy. The actual location of the facility is about 100 miles away in a very rural town. This town is roughly 96% white. Other than occasional delivery drivers, the normal staff is 100% white. On Monday, one of their regular patients, a white man roughly in his late 50s, came to pick up his prescription and make small talk with one of the 2 technicians. I've just completed my manuscript, he says. He continues to explain his efforts of writing a self-help book prescription manuscript. Oh, excuse me a minute. He says, I've just completed my manuscript. He says he continues to explain his efforts of writing a self-help book prescription, a self-help book for prescription drug abusers. He leaves the first window, moves to the second window, and begins telling the same to the second technician. Side note, the window where he is standing is situated between me, the technician, and we are about 3 feet apart. I overhear him emphasizing not taking the next dose of pain medication early when I need to answer a call from a nurse practitioner. When the call concluded, he was still speaking to the tech and was quite animated. I then clearly hear him exclaim, with this impassioned tone, what about all those people with 200 IQs that were picking cotton? What about all those women that had to walk behind a mule and till? And lastly, what about all those people that were hung? He's talking to the tech. I'm standing just next to her. Tacky and trashy. End of report. That is fascinating all the way around. Would have been interesting to get more context to what preceded that, what exactly they were talking about that constituted all of that being brought up. Actually had one more. We had one person share a workplace racism segment since we have been on the air. I will bring in some of the callers, and then I will read that one as well before we get to the bottom of the hour. I will give out the number one more time, 641-715-3640, and the code is 564943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. All the folks who dialed in with a hand up should be with us. Again, this is not spectator. This is not a broadcast, much like the compensatory call-in where you just get comfortable and dial in and I can listen to folks talk and chat it up. This is definitely not a broadcast for spectators. You should be actively participating. I again submit there's no way that you can have 5, 10, 20 black people together and only 2 of them are having an issue with workplace racism. I submit this is a massive problem with black people being mistreated, not being compensated adequately, justly on the job, being denied promotions, and just the tackiness that we heard in some of the comments from folks who wrote in. This is widespread. I am certain there are people who are on the line right now who never dial in, never participate, and you are going through the exact same type of problems or problems of the same sort of variety. You should share. It helps people generate suggestions, counter-racist techniques. And again, there are people who do not have lengthy experience in the work field. So they have not had these type of encounters. Hearing these types of incidents, it helps them have in mind the types of things that they might have to experience. And then they can already start developing strategies in terms of what they will say, what they will do to neutralize these problems. So it's very beneficial. Share, offer your insight, offer your commentary. This is not a broadcast for spectators. Thank you. All the folks who dialed in should have, who have a hand up. Line should be open. If you could watch the background noise, that would be super appreciated. Thank you kindly. Feel free to share.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I called in yesterday. I'm a truck driver, and I go from state to state, but mostly on the West Coast, and I go to military bases. There's one particular military base I've been going to in Montana. There's a guy there, and there's another black driver before me. He quit because of something racist that was said to him, but he didn't really elaborate. So I pull up one day, and I had the cows playing real loud, and the part that said racist man, racist woman, racist child, it over the radio, and I know he kind of overheard it. When I got inside, he was trying to segue into a conversation about race, and I could tell, and I was trying to keep it like to a minimum of words. And then he brought up this story. He said he was in a Walmart or something like that with his son, and this black guy was behind him, and he told me this guy was really, really black. I mean, real black. And this is a white guy that lives in the woods. So and he's telling me this, and then he said his son turned around and said, "Hey, Dad, ape, ape, ape." And I just stood there shocked. I said, wow, to myself. And I asked him, I took a page from what I've been hearing on the show. I asked him if he thought that his kid was exhibiting correct behavior. And he said, he's just a kid. He doesn't really know. Kids do that. And I asked him, how do you think the guy felt, hearing a little kid say that? And this guy has told me countless times that he's not racist, and, I'm figuring he's trying to draw me into it, tell him more stuff and give him information, but I keep that to a minimum as well, no personal information. But that was it.
I think the person just wrote in about racists on the job. They like to do things. I feel like this is something we talk about every week. They like to do things to get you upset, get you angry, and then they can go to HR, Human Resources, and file some sort of complaint that you have been aggressive or violent. You threatened them because you got angry or what have you. I feel like they do that sort of thing on a constant basis. We hear at least one or two of those every week during workplace racism. That's why it's so important managing your emotions, where you don't let that sort of thing upset you. You expect that. It's not a surprise. You are behaving the way that I expect racist man, racist woman, racist child to behave. And in fact, that's another one where you can use the codification. What's on our task of, objectives that we're supposed to accomplish today? Did you see the new schematics that we got, and just go right back to whatever we're supposed to be doing? Like, I have no comment. I don't have anything to say. And we just get right back to work. If other folks, he said that was all, I think. If other folks who have a hand up who are with us, if you have commentary on the first.
That was that was an interesting story. Wow. I think you had a very good response too. I don't think I would have thought of that response. There I would have probably asked. I'll probably still be asking questions, but very good job. When you ask me, I think you did a great job.
If I could answer you, I'm sorry to cut you off, but inside I felt like doing what I used to do when I was younger, but that would have brought a whole mess of trouble on me.
Yeah, don't do that. You did just what you were supposed to do, and just your response and the way you responded. I know he realized that, man, he didn't get the response out of you that he wanted. And you asked questions, and he probably won't do something like that to you again, even though I would expect him to. But, he probably, white people know who they can get aroused out, And I just thought that was interesting. I had a story to share, but I'll wait for other people to comment on yours first. I thought you did a great job asking if that was correct behavior for his kid. And I think it proves at the point that Gus thinks, it's racist woman, racist man, racist child. They learn this behavior at home from birth. And it's acceptable.
Hello?
Oh, yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yes, I just want to answer your question about the Black Panthers at the beginning of the show. They're perceived as racist, and it kind of ironically ties into workplace racism, because a place I used to work, it's been so long I forgot what I said, but I said something, and they said, the guy said he ain't nothing but a racist. And it was the Sixers, he'd be in the Black Panther Party. So one of his white buddies told me what he said. And I said, he doesn't know his history. It's a book edited by Clarence E. Jones called The Black Panther Party Reconsidered. You don't have to take my word for anything. And it tells, he talks about how white people, even in England, were influenced by the Black Panther Party. And also, I can't think of the people now, but I told him the people. It was a group in America, a white group, even though I don't think they were serious. They were influenced by the Panthers. And I said, so how could they be racist? And how could I be racist for just defending myself? And then the guy's white friend, his mouth fell to the floor, And he said, you have an answer for everything, and you're the blackest person I've ever met. So I'll never forget it. And then that was the end of that.
Question: You were the person who was earlier Gus spoke about?
No, at the beginning of the show, Gus asked a question: what does posing a picture of the Black Panthers have to do with anything? If for you to possibly lose your job. So I relayed that incident to him to show him that the Panthers are widely perceived as racist, even though they weren't.
Gotcha. But you did this at your workplace, though, with a white person?
Yeah, because ironically, the white person who said that, who called me racist, his white friend, both of them are white, his white friend told me what he said. And I corrected him and showed him where he could find it. He didn't have to take my word for anything.
He told you why did he call you racist?
It's been so long. It's been so long, but I forgot what I said exactly, but it's been so long. But I was basically defending myself, and he said I was racist, and I said, and he said if I was living in the '60s, I'd be one of the Panthers. So I corrected him. And the group, I remember the group. The group was the students with, I think the Students for Democratic Society, and it was also a group in England. And I said also the Panthers work with them, so how could they be racist? And so that shut him up. His mouth fell to the floor. And then he said, you have an answer for everything. And he also said, you're the blackest person I've ever met. And by blackest person he's ever met, what he meant was, I was deeply rooted in my history, and I was unapologetic for it.
Fascinating. That's why I'd be interested to know more information about exactly what this the black law enforcement official, what he posted exactly that warranted him being decommissioned. Like, I could see maybe, particularly if you're in law enforcement, I could see them having no sympathy and not cutting any slack if it was a post of Assata Shakur, and she's wanted and is by many whites regarded as a cop killer. But if it was somebody like Geronimo Pratt or Dr. Afeni Shakur, the late, God bless the dead, I would have a difficult time. Like, exactly what is the problem? What is incorrect about this posting? I would want, if somebody can find that online, I'll send you the NPR report. If anybody can find that online, I'd like to know more details about exactly what about the Panthers was posted. Was it something that was said? Was it a caption? It just seemed like it would have to be more. I mean, because with the Panthers, that's a lot. That could be grits, anything. Anywho, other folks.
Excuse me for interrupting, but see, if you're not singing "Kumbaya," you're a racist. If you're not, and I'm not saying it to disrespect Martin Luther King, but if you're not like him, you're a racist. That's the way they see it.
Well, they didn't particularly care for Dr. King either until for a limited period of time. Exactly, but we're kind of moving afield from workplace racism.
That leads to another workplace incident I had. This one was at my current place. I had it 2 weeks ago. I was reluctant to call in, but I really didn't want to talk about it at the time. But I was working with a white dude because the guy I was supposed to work with, he didn't show up because he was sick. So they send a white dude in. He comes in, makes excuses. Well, I ain't got no, rubber pants, rain pants, because I'm working in the wet. I don't have this, I don't have that, walking around making excuses. Even though he's working there before, he knows what the job entails. He finally gets in there. I shouldn't have said it because it wasn't codified, but I said it. I said, after we caught up, I said, well, after eating my words, I thought you was a wuss. And he said, I don't care about what anybody says about me because I don't need my mom and dad to help me with anything. And so I said, hold up.
I said, when we first met, that's not what you told me. You told me, and I didn't ask for it. You gave it to me. You told me that your mother had a trust fund for you to get a house or something that's positive when you reach a certain age. And he's reached a certain age and he got a house with it. I said, that's not help. What is? Then he started to get to this deal. Oh, my mama, she this and she that. She worked hard. She worked hard to get what she wants. I said, that's irrelevant. I said, at the start of the civil rights movement, well, before the start of the civil rights movement, they were not asking for immigration. They were asking for equal pay for teachers in the separate communities. If you're going to be separate, pay those teachers equal. Then when the white liberals came in, it got turned around. And I said, it got turned into affirmative action. I said, we didn't even get that. I said, the most people who got the most on affirmative action is white women, because they know most white women are going to be with white men, so the money is still in the white community. And I said, your own government statistics admit this. He said, I don't want to hear it no more. I don't want to hear it. He was getting mad. I don't want to hear it no more. I don't want to hear it. You racist. You racist. I said, what's racist about it? I said, those are your government statistics. I can't have a view of millennial. I'm a dumb millennial. And then he took me to the office. And so I explained to him what happened. I said, he brought up the issue, then he lied, and he just got mad because I showed his mama in a bad light. I said, I didn't call his mama out her name. I didn't do anything. I gave him straight history so they can do anything about it, because I also told him that, yes, because he said his mama worked at the Pentagon. I said, that doesn't impress me, because the Pentagon side with the CIA, FBI, blah, blah. And those are the same organizations that got people like Martin Luther King, Edgar, Medgar Evers, and others that you don't even know killed. Okay, if that's not bad, now let's go to our previous point about the affirmative action. So not only did she work for an agency that got black people killed who were only trying to make this country better, but she stepped over a lot of dead bodies to get her job, and he really got mad then. But I frankly didn't care. And so he took me to the office, but they didn't do anything about it after I explained the whole situation. And I turned the tables on him, and he don't know his own history. And I said, these things happen. And I didn't call his mom out her name. I didn't do anything like that. I told him, I just put him in his place. And so they told him, just, if you can't basically have a discussion with him without losing temper, just leave him alone. And so that was the end of that.
Right on. My suggestion on the job, and really in dealing with whites, I really make an effort to try to stay away from doing a lot of statements and either educating or just doing a lot of talking, trying to prove points or quote unquote put them in their place, particularly on the job. I mean, if it would maybe be different if we were in a different setting, like you're talking to somebody like a Norm Stamper or something like that, it might be a little bit different, but particularly on the job, I would really be trying to stay away from the putting whites in their place or making a lot of statements, trying to list a lot of facts and history about things that have happened or racism, because that's, I mean, I would say probably for everybody that's here, that's not why you took the job. You want to get your paycheck, do whatever you do, and let's go home. I would, anything that's not related to the job, these would be very, very, very brief, concise conversations with as few words as possible. And same thing I kind of said with the first person who chimed in, where the white person told him this story about them being at the store and his child calling a racist child, calling a black person an ape. I would really try to be as economical with my words on the job with whites as possible, so that I'm not just doing a lot of talking and talking and talking. And I say that as well because on the job, even if you make your effort to put them in their place and that sort of thing, and, I got them told, even if they don't do anything to you at that moment, a lot of times they will have the power to do something to you in that moment. But even if they don't, that can be the type of thing. Whites, I say that they network all the time. They talk, They exchange information, all of that. So that can be the type of thing where, okay, this nigga really got on my nerves. And they just go and talk to other white people on the job, and they just figure out a way to get back at you, whether that's getting back at you and messing your schedule over, or messing your hours over, or seeing if we can find out ways to nitpick. Oh, you were 5 minutes late. That's going to be a write-up. That's going to be a demotion, that sort of thing. Just in my view, I think it's best just keeping that in mind on the job, that we're not there to put whites in their place per se, that this is not the place to try to show them, to try to teach the history of racism, white supremacy to a white person, really under any circumstance. I think that's important. Just keep the statements to a minimum. You can ask questions if you want, in my view, but I would try to stay away from that as much as possible. I think that's the sort of thing that can lead to problems. I don't think most of the time it's going to be successful in a long-term sense for you going that route. I could be in error.
Excuse me, interrupting. Yes, he's been trying to initiate conversations later, but I just, since he showed his true color, I just say, good morning, hello. I just said, yeah, and I keep going. And one more morning, he said, hey, come over here. And I just got off the tank, and I said, I'm tired, you come to me. And I kept it moving.
Right on. Other folks that dialed in, if you all had questions about some of the anecdotes that you've heard thus far, or if you had your own experience you wanted to share, feel free.
Like 3-4 years ago, I wrote you, Gus. I first started writing, and I wrote and I asked for an episode of The Cow that C.O.W.S admitted to being a racist. And you asked, why did I, through email, why, and I told you about a white coworker, female, very fine, young racist, and she didn't believe me when I told her that he was an admitted racist. And you sent me the episode and you say, you don't get in the habit of teaching white people. You can share this with us if you want, but, it's something that you wouldn't do. And I really held to that. And I think that to sit there and have a conversation where you're trying to inform white people, especially about black people, I look at it like they already know all that. They know more about us than us. So I don't get in the habit of trying to teach them or inform them on things. I just think that that's not a good habit to be in myself. I do have one to share.
Right on. Other folks who dialed in, I think everybody who dialed in with a hand up should be with us. If you have commentary to share or questions, feel free.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I had, I guess the statement of the question. My statement, I think it's a workplace racism kind of thing, but it was at school before I started working, and at the school that I went to, like an HBCU, and the area around it was being gentrified, or I guess that's the term. And but on a particular day that I was walking on the campus, like there are a lot of tours, but I've noticed that a lot of the tours were of like white students, but it's an HBCU, and like young white students. And on this particular day, it was like a young black male standing off to the side, but he was sort of communicating with the people, so I could tell that he was a part of the tour. And I went to him to ask him, because I was just curious, because I was seeing so many white kids and on this tour, and I went up to him and I was asking him about, like, where are you from? Like, is this a school tour? Is this are you guys coming here as like going to a museum or something? Like, just trying to see like why would young white kids come to an HBCU? And like before he could pretty much say anything, like a white teacher, just a white woman just ran, like basically ran. She was like right up next to us, like in a flash, and started. And I just kept on asking the white black male like questions, and then she started to answer them, and it just became awkward, our conversation, and the kid just left, and it was just amazing how quickly she just, like, it was in a very public area, but the way that she approached the situation was telling. But what was telling for me that day was that I kept on walking, and I was like on this campus close by there, like high school, and there was like a group of like young black youths like there, and they were just smoking weed, and it was just like looking at the comparison to this like school that the neighborhood is being gentrified, and the white kids are taking tours of the school. I don't know if maybe they're going to take over the school one day, and the black youth, like many of them are just smoking weed, and it was just like I guess since I started to listen to the program, it was maybe I'll call it like a welcome moment. Yeah, and so, but my question specifically about like the workplace is that I think a couple of weeks ago you were talking about like clothes and like, you know, trying to minimize like, you know, wearing all kinds of things and being worried about what you're going to wear. And I think this week I was listening to Mr. Floyd was talking about like messages like, you know, like hair message or message hair, sorry, or message whatever. Like, are there other areas of messages that you can send except, you know, for like hair and clothes in the office that one should be aware of, like that people know about?
I just quick pause before my response to the question. The cannabis consumption, that kind of comparison, in my view, juxtaposing what the young black people were doing and what the next generation of racists, what they were doing, preparing to quote unquote gentrify an HBCU. Yes, we need more legalization. Yes. Anyway, are there more things on the job in terms of sending a message? I would say almost everything sends a message. I think your clothing, that sends a message. The way that you have your hair, certainly as much conversation as we've had about natural hair, and even I think it came up last week or the week before with black males and them having locks on the job, and that's sending a message and maybe even being a problem for them getting a job or promotion or that sort of thing. The things that you have on your desk, that sends a message. If you have all kinds of stuff, pictures and plants and candy dishes and little figurines and that sort of thing, that sends a message. If you are listening to music on the job, that sends a message. I mean, it's lots of things, just your conduct on the job. I mean, when they talk about nonverbal communication, just the entire way that you carry yourself, that sends a message. The way that you respond, the first caller, the person that dialed in, where the racist gave the story about his son calling a black male an ape, and he just asked a couple questions. He didn't, get upset or what have you. That sends a huge message, way beyond whatever questions were asked in terms of you not having an emotional response. So I would absolutely, so many, just everything that you do, thoughts, speech, actions, your emotions, all of it, it sends a huge message to whites. And it's been my experience that whites, they spend a lot of time evaluating, interpreting those messages, sharing that information with their other racist colleagues so they can go about further maintaining domination over the plantation when they're on the job and how they're going to deal with the niggers in the workplace. They're paying attention to all of that just so that they can better understand who they're working around and how they can manipulate and abuse you, if that makes sense. I don't know if other people want to contribute to that, or if I'm talking crazy, you can feel free to submit that as well.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I have to mirror everything that you just said. I think that every white person is like a mini FBI agent. They are always trying to psychoanalyze you. They're always trying to see what position you're in psychologically, as far as your view of the world, your view of white people, your view of the job itself and how the job functions. There's not, like Gus said, there's not an aspect of your work life that is not under heavy, intense scrutiny, even when it seems like you're not under scrutiny. White people are very good at looking like they're busy doing other things when their actual focus is on you. And the more I think the more silent you are and perceptive you are, you don't have to say much, just look. Just actually start, and just get in the habit of doing that. Just start taking stock of your surroundings, take stock of what people are actually doing. And it's just a brief glance over, and do that every so often. And especially if you have other non-white people, but especially black people on the job, and especially if those black people work in and around other white people, just take stock and see how they act. And they'll all show different signs of how white supremacy functions, but they all are paying attention in some form or fashion to what the black people are doing on the job. So I can't disagree with anything that Gus said, because I've experienced it, I've seen it. And they're just incredible at their ability to be perceptive, and also to try and coax information out of you via conversation that seems to be innocuous and just seemingly a regular conversation. But in that regular conversation, they're baiting you to get more information about you or your thoughts and ideas. And the more you ingratiate them by answering their questions, the more they basically take notes. And like I said, they compare notes, they share notes, and if they think that you are a black person who is, in their mind, anti-white, or you're a black person who has some form of black self-respect or anything like that, you're going to be under the radar to get terminated very quickly.
Oh, just real quick as well. You were talking about other things that send the message. Your vehicle. I mean, I think both of us were saying everything. Whites are looking to get information about everything, anything and everything that you do. But if you're looking for specifics, the vehicle that you drive to work, that for sure sends a message. And we've had black guests on this program who've talked about how racists changed their behavior and ultimately terminated them from their job because they saw, oh, wow, this nigger has a really nice vehicle. Whoa. We do not want to contribute to them having a high quality of life where they can get that type of expensive automobile. Let's get this nigga out of here. And that's exactly what they did. And he explained in detail on the program how that happened, because he used to drive just, I guess, his regular nothing special vehicle, and then one day he switched and drove his nice vehicle, and it was whoa, and all these comments, and he noticed a substantial change from that point forward. And I've heard that from other people. In fact, we had someone else who said, it was a black female, she said that black people on the job, was a black male, he announced that he was about to get married, and then he was subsequently fired not long after they got that bit of information. So everything, literally, I mean, I'm not just saying that to be general or what have you. Everything that you're doing conveys information to racists, and they are absorbing and cataloging all of that information to use against you in the system of white supremacy.
It's funny you said that, Gus, because you couldn't be more accurate with that. One thing I try to compare sometimes the way black people should deal with white people to a poker game. You never want them to see your hand. You never want them to see what you have. And if they have the impression that you have more than them or more than they want to allow you to have, that will be the beginning of the end. I'll never forget, before I went to Egypt with my family, we were going on an African Heritage Study Tour. This was back in 2007. And my wife was working in a temp job at the time. So she was forced to tell them that she was going on vacation in order for them to prepare for someone to kind of, hold her spot until she got back. And she only told one person, but before you knew it, everybody knew, and the jealousy, was just crazy from what the white people were saying, even some of the black people on the job. And eventually they ended up mistreating her and getting rid of her too. So without question, I mean, anything that you do, if they think that is something black people should not have, which is basically anything that makes you comfortable or make you have any sort of decent quality of life, they're going to literally look to stymie that in every way, shape, or form. And there was somebody else I worked with, too, that had the same incident where they drove to work in the car, and their car was better than their boss's car. And they got right quick about getting him up out of there. Like, we paying this nigga way too much. He got to go. And in no time flat, he was out of there. And it was just that one day. And he said, I feel really uncomfortable with the comments I'm getting because people were just complimenting his car and taking a look at it. And then the white people were, having their little round table, little circular discussions amongst themselves in hushed tones. And he felt like he was in a zoo. And I said, brother, you made a serious error driving up here with that today. And sure enough, it didn't take them but like a month, but he was out of there. They set him up and they got him up out of there. So without question, you are completely correct. 2 billion% if there is a 2 billion%.
Yeah, I think that was really helpful, especially about the music, like listening to music, because that's something that I occasionally do. Like that's something that I do. Oh, I also just wanted to share one thing, but this is like, I guess, like a good moment. I don't know, in the workplace, where I work. Like, I work at like many different sites, but this week I met and my workplace is very, very white, but I saw a black female, an older black female, and when we were passing each other in the hallway, I mean, it's very rare to see another black person, but a black person that's a professional role. And so, but the way that she greeted me, the way that she basically sort of like shook my hand, it was very professional. Very, hello, how are you doing? Welcome. And then just walked away. It was almost as if she was codified in a sense, but it was nice. Just that greeting was a pleasant time on the job this week. Thank you for letting me share.
For sure. Everybody else, we had newer people that called in. Everybody who dialed in with a hand up should be with us. I just wanted to share the workplace racism we got. This is from our female caller in Michigan. She writes, shenanigans at the law office this week and my observations. I noticed how helpful white people are to new hires who are white. Since the firing of the 2 white female secretaries, they hired a black female and a white female. I noticed how the office manager ensured not to sit the new black female by me. I am the only black female and person in my area. All the white people are extremely helpful to the new white lady, and I noticed the drastic difference from when I started. The white woman is not particularly friendly, but I noticed how the white people and non-whites are going over and beyond to help her. A new white attorney started with the firm and sits in my area, and he constantly bothers me all day, asking me stupid questions. For example, do you have extra sticky notes? A pen? How do I transfer a call? Etc. He specifically asks me for help. I play stupid as best I can, but I'm starting to think it's irritating him, which is why he's purposely bothering me. It's frustrating, and I'm thinking me acting like I don't know things is causing attention. Shaking my head. And it continues. That, I think, that should be no surprise at all if you want to contrast that to Thomas in New York, who's given us the updates, being on a new job, and how the white woman who has been training him has been anything but extra helpful in making sure that he transitions well and gets an overstanding of his new job. That is consistent. That's one of the major ways that they practice racism, white supremacy, in terms of whites not training us correctly and just setting us up to fail. That's one of the things. That's why I encourage consistently, be observant, pay attention. You'll notice these type of things as your understanding of racism increases. You'll just be seeing it. Maybe no one is saying anything overtly to you racist. No one is calling you an ape or a nigger or anything like that, but you're just seeing that you're being mistreated. You're not being treated the same way that a white person would be in your situation. I'll hush there. Other folks who dialed in, if we haven't heard from you, if you have comments, questions about anything you've heard thus far, or if you just want to share your own situation, feel free.
You know, I just thought about something, Gus, when you talked about that, because I talked about my incidents of not being properly trained. And one thing I've come to understand as far as this patterns and how the system functions is that the system is designed to make you dumb. And what they do is they make you dumb by not training you properly, then manipulate the fact that they did not train you properly to practice racism against you and cause you undue stress and duress and aggravation. And once you understand that, then the main thing to do on any job is be a knowledge seeker. When Gus talks about, no friendly conversations with white people, strictly keep it about the job and finding out things that, that can help you actually better your situation or improve your knowledge base on the job, that is the best thing, because what they try to do is make you stupid. When you look at our ancestors, they beat our ancestors into being beasts of burden. So they basically regressed our entire progress as an entire group of people. And they've done that to all non-white people. But the idea is that that is what they do, and then they capitalize off of it. And because they're in a position of power, they use that situation to further abuse you when they set you up for that abuse in the first place. So they really want to be God. And then the job, I think, is where they really get to try and exercise that the best. The same way with our ancestors on the plantation, the job. Essentially, that's when they really, really, practice that whole God complex that they have, I think, really comes to fruition in a work situation. And that's why we go through the things we go through in these jobs with these terrorists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Everyone. Right now, give me 5 minutes, and then I'll be able to participate. Give me about 2 to 5 minutes, and I'll be able to participate.
Yes, sir. While he's getting himself together, other folks on the line that we have not heard from, if you had a hand up, if you have questions, comments, your own experience you would like to share, feel free.
Hello. May I be heard?
If you could speak up a little bit, that would be helpful.
Okay. Is that better? May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. At my job yesterday, a manager, like a top manager that's over the supervisors, instructed me to do something that we don't do at work. And he just, he outright told me to do it. And I asked him, is this, because we usually don't do it this way, should I be doing it this way? And he said yes, and I asked him twice. And I had to do it. And, I work with food, so I felt horrible. But I sat there and had to do that. And if I wouldn't have did it, I felt like I would have been putting myself in jeopardy of losing my money that I'm getting right now to survive for me and my children. So just like Raj just said, at these jobs, they play this like they want to be the God. Just like Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. wrote in the book, they want to make themselves out to be God. I felt horrible, but I had to do it. He told me to do it. I said, is this correct? Is it, because we usually don't do it this way? And he said yes. And I did it. And today at work, that was yesterday at work. Today at work, this isn't anything to do with management. This is with another coworker. Somebody they wanted to fill my hair. They asked me if they could touch my hair. And I have just a short afro. And I asked her why. I said, why do you want to touch my hair? And she said, well, I just wanted to see how it feels. And I told her, no, I don't feel comfortable with you touching my hair. And that's what happened to me for this week so far at work.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What was it that you had to do? Just curious.
I had to. It's some contaminated stuff at work that we discard some of it, and some of it goes to another place, and we have been doing it one way, but I that day yesterday I was doing it not the way that we were told not to do. I did that yesterday all day, and it's got something to do with contaminant food. So, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I would say the dangers of eating out. But I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Especially, I could tell that it's eating at you to have to have done something that you were completely uncomfortable with. And I was just going to say the person who wanted to touch your hair. I can't stand that. But one thing I've learned from reading The Delectable Negro is the different forms of consumption, of human consumption, that is a big part of the system of white supremacy. And white people don't just consume us physically. They don't just consume us psychologically. They also consume us spiritually. And a lot of times a part of that consumption is just simple touching you, violating your personal space, you not having control of your own body, or them feeling like they have control over your body to the point where they will ask you to do something. And in some cases, they won't ask. They'll just reach out and touch your hair, And I think if anyone wants to understand how cannibalism works beyond just the gross, overt aspects of just eating another person, read that book, because it'll bring you to a deep understanding of how whites consume black people and all of the different ways that they do. And even something as simple as touching your hair, how that can be actually a form of, if it was a female, it could be a form of homoeroticism too. So I would just recommend that book to all black people, because it'll wake you up as to how they consume us and how dangerous they are, even in something as simple as that. And it's just unbelievable. And I'm really, really sorry that you have to go through something like that on a regular basis.
Could you repeat the title of the book?
Sure. It's called The Delectable Negro by Vincent Woodard. It's The Delectable Negro, Homoeroticism and Cannibalism in U.S. Slave Culture is the subtitle. And it's a just incredible book. And it deals a lot with, or mostly with, the consumption, the homoeroticism and cannibalism perpetrated on black males, and specifically the rape of black males. But it actually deals with just white people consuming black people. And they talk about females as well, so you can see the white female angle of it. But it'll just really wake you up to the subtle ways that they consume us, and we're not actually aware that we're being consumed. And usually that's why Dr. Darren Smith, when he talks about the empirical evidence that he has that proves that just black people having contact with white people makes us sick, like physically sick, genetically sick, spiritually sick. And it's just incredible. So I just recommend that to everyone who's within earshot of this call.
And I want to make sure, because that person that wanted to touch my hair, everyone, that was not a white person. That was a person that said they were from, I believe, either Venezuela or El Salvador.
Interesting.
Right. That's why I was like, what? And I asked her, and she said she just wanted to see how it felt. So I told her no.
Well, I know the racism in Spanish-speaking Caribbean and South American countries is just incredible, and I think that we have it bad, English-speaking black people, but I really think that Spanish-speaking people have had like a serious, like their refinement of white supremacy and the different levels of color, all the different types of colors you can be. I think in Brazil there was like 20-something different categories they have for black people and non-white people, and I just think that they can approach. And is she a white-looking Venezuelan or El Salvadoran, or does she look like she's a non-white person who would not be classified as white?
She looks like she would not be classified as white.
So I'm wondering if she's had not too much contact with darker skinned Venezuelans or El Salvadorans, because I noticed that with the inculcation of the way white supremacy manifests itself, even those non-white Spanish-speaking people tend to have an approach that's very similar to what they learned from white supremacists, which is that curiosity thing, and their hair feels like Brillo, or these other little things. And in their societies, like, they have such crazy terms for disrespecting black people and our hair and things like that. So I'm wondering what her angle is. But I say the same thing still applies. It's still a form of consumption.
Well, I think in that environment, I would just go with the we are touching food. That doesn't sound like a sanitary thing for us to be doing a lot of running our fingers through each other's hair in an environment where we're working with food. Like, let's just stay focused on the job, and you can do that in your off time or what have you, but that does not seem like something that we should be engaged in if we're going to be touching food on a regular basis. That's what our job entails. With regards to what happened yesterday, and I mean, definitely I feel the energy as well in terms of it's still bothering you having to do that. That's something I would document, that, this manager, this was a white person, yes?
Yes.
Document that this white person, suspected racist, that he came in and said, no, we're going to deviate from what the stated policy is, the way that we normally go about this process, and we're going to do it this way. If this is just his individual whim or whatever the case is, this is the way that I want you to do it today. I would document in case that comes up later. If there's a question asked, or there's some sort of violation or anything, everything, date, time, that you said, hey, this is not the way that we normally do this process, and such and whatever his name is, said, no, this is the way that, I want it done, that you pointed out consistently that this is a deviation from the way that we typically do this. And the person said, never mind that, this is the way that I want it done, that he is a manager, what his position. I would write all that out, date, time, boom, 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 so that if anything comes up, boom, you have your documentation, just to be very clear about that if there are any questions, because that sort of thing has popped up on the program a lot as well. That's why I said, in my view, it's so important to know policy and procedure on your job, because whites will regularly, we've had so many examples of that, where they will go and ask an employee to do something that they know is a violation of policy. And that when we talk about setting black people up to fail, they will do that, and then you end up being the one that gets in trouble for it when, you did this violation, you didn't do this right, where you were told to do this in this sort of way, or encouraged, or some kind of way where they got you in that direction where it was not in accordance with whatever the rules and policy are at that particular job. That's what we really encourage. Know the policy and procedure well, read your manual. I consistently share, that's as long as we're doing workplace racism, share aspects of your policy and procedure. If something sticks out that is important, the person writing in about the drug testing, share. If the wording is significant, share. Real important to know that, and the documentation as well. That way you'll see when things deviate. That can be extremely helpful in my view. If you're being asked to do things that you know are a violation of policy, so that you can handle that a little bit better, have your documentation in place, and you know the policy as well as they do, so you can point out, yeah, I knew this was incorrect, I documented it, I asked, I pointed that out, and they insisted that it be done this way. I'm not a manager, so I have to comply, I have to do as I'm told. That way they're not taking the issue up with you, they're taking it up with whomever this person is.
I had a question for the caller. Is that the first time they asked you to do something like that?
That is. It is.
Okay.
It is. And I do document. This is today is actually my year anniversary at working at this job, and I have been documenting. So there is a notebook for this job that I'm working on, and I have been writing things down, and that definitely went in there yesterday as soon as I got in the car.
great. And I was going to ask too if you have access to the health codes, because he might be actually breaking the law. If you're dealing with food and there's protocol to dealing with contaminants, that's how different food eateries and places get their government documentation to allow them to handle food. So there are government laws that have to be adhered to. So he might be actually breaking the law, not just company policy. So that's something, I don't know if you have access to that, but I would look into that too, because he definitely might be actually breaking government law by having you do things different to the protocol that was set by the company, because in a lot of cases, most jobs, because of because of the health codes dealing with distribution of food, most companies tend to have even more stringent policies than the government law itself. So to me, if he's having you violate policy, you definitely want to look into the laws as well, because he more than likely will be violating some sort of health code.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, everyone. The exchange sounds interesting. What it does for me is to remember over that almost 30 years that I was on that job. For most of us non-white black people in this part of the world, our first contact on a daily basis with white people is in the people activity of employment, when we get, on a quote-unquote job. And some of us find out very quickly. Some of us, it may take a little while to understand that they are very codified, individually and in that employment, that is not to our best interest. Therefore, in order to compensate for that environment, if that non-white black person is going to accomplish most of their goals, they're going to have to develop codification, and should be attempting that process on a daily basis. I would like to applaud the non-white black female who I heard speaking about what she did when she was asked about, quote unquote, touching her hair. I mean, I'm like, if it wouldn't make so much noise, I'd be clapping my hands right now, on that. And she had a very, very smart explanation to her reasoning also, and that is just one example of precise codification. It's like war in a sense, because you already, when you get employed, you already come into a situation where the military tactics and strategies is already in place, but not to your best interest. So it behooves that non-white person to if they haven't already, when they go into the job, some of us, there's a few people who are like that, but most of us come in, and if you got to develop a counter military codification, then do so, and do so immediately, and do so on a daily basis. I mean, be forthright on what you're going to say and what you're going to do, based on all of even some of the situations that may not have happened to you. You are ready and prepared, so when they do come up, because as I mentioned before, they are already codified with you coming in. And that's all I have to say right now. I'll be listening.
Can I share mine real quick, please?
Yes, sir. If you could speak up a little bit, that would be helpful, or get a little closer to the receiver, maybe.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. So I'm at work, and as I told you, I'm doing this temporary position at this insurance company, and made a few observations, in particular with white women. So last week I covered for the receptionist because she went on vacation. This week I covered for the office services guy because he went on vacation. And one white female in particular is sits in a group of white females, or their cubicles are in the same vicinity. And he says, as he was training me, I don't say nothing to those bees. I don't like them, in his accent. And he kind of went to on to say that, they like getting people in trouble over there, so, watch them. So I kind of, took the information and ran with it. And, I'm doing the job, and every time I go over there, one in particular always speaks very nicely. And she reminds me of white females I used to go to high school with the phony smiles they'll give me. Hey, Thomas, So I'm like, hi, I'll keep it moving. So this white female in particular, I'm doing my job. I'm in the pantry. I'm working with restocking, taking inventory. I'm writing down what needs to be ordered and be filled and whatever. And she comes in and says, "I'm gonna be so tired tonight." I'm like, "Oh, she's talking to me." So I said, "Okay." So I keep doing what I'm doing. She says, "You know why?" I said, "No." So she says, "Oh, because I have to work my second job because I work at this restaurant." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." She says, "Yeah, my family owns a restaurant on 68th Street." She just keeps talking, and I just thought that was very interesting. I'm like, why would she even come out with this information? It's just very odd. In particular, it's another white female, and I found this to be extremely strange observation because this white female is an older white female, but she dresses very provocatively. She kind of looks like one of those, what are the Jersey Housewives type look, high heels, every day. But an older white female, and I don't know, they had that look that they get. Oh, nah, it's not that. She's a married white female to a white man with a lot of money, and it just so happens that her desk, in my desk, the desk that they allocated for me while I'm at the site, she's facing me. So like my computer is facing hers, but she doesn't work at this office. She's the head of all the IT for the firm, and she only comes over there because the IT office is right next to that. So that when she comes to that office, she works out of this desk. So generally, I don't want to be facing her, so I would go in to the other guy's office, sitting there. But being that I was there by myself, I had to interact with her for the first time, other than introducing myself and whatever. And I noticed she starts talking, and she wanted to know because they sent me to the Jersey office to do something, and how did I know how to get there so fast? And I told her, I grew up in that city, Jersey City, and I know that train system pretty well, the fast train, and I know the buildings because I used to work over there. So she was, okay, so she said she was from New Jersey. Now the whole time we're talking, and I'm just feeding into what she's saying. I'm I have to sit there and look at her, and she has a very high position, and she keeps putting her hair like over her breast line. I'm making sure that I'm making eye contact with her. I'm not even trying to, but she has, like, I say she dresses very provocatively and she lets her fake breast, show. And I can see that, the other white men in the office, they tend to be checking her out, even though she's an older white female and she carries herself in a way where she knows they're checking her out. But I just found that to be very odd. Now, as for the last situation, it's this white female that I assume is flirting with me at the job. This white female hasn't been there till today. So, she comes over to where I'm sitting, and she says, "You probably wondered where I was at." And I look up, and I was like, "Oh, you weren't here?" And she was like, "Oh, you didn't realize I was going? I had strep throat and da-da-da-da." And, I said, "Oh, man, you had that. Let me get up and go." So I got up and left. So that's my story. And my line.
Wowee. The attention-seeking white chicks. I think we've heard quite a bit about that on the program as well. It's been, at least my conclusion, frequently these racist women, workplace or no, where they're looking for some sort of attention, whether it's they want to just come and suck up all of your airtime and talk like you're a therapist or something, or this other white chick where, she might, it might be worthy of a cowbell. And then they see that you are not giving them the attention, like she's been out and you didn't even notice, like, oh my gosh. And you're like, you were sick, you got the Zika virus, let me get out of here. Man, they can be very vindictive. And I've heard that a lot in the workplace, where you are not giving me the attention that, I'm supposed to get as a white woman. You're supposed to worship me like a goddess. You're not doing that. Nigra, it's about to be on in the workplace. I have heard that before from quite a few folks. I think that's popped up on the program before. Definitely something to kind of keep in mind, because it can get vicious like real fast with white chicks. Did folks have commentary on, I guess, the attention-seeking older white woman before? I guess that was kind of the middle anecdote. Did folks have commentary on either of those questions? Anything stand out in what you heard from Thomas in New York, or folks want to move forward with their own stories or experiences?
Yes, sir.
You go first.
Yes, sir. Two things with Mr. Thomas and his report. First, she was attempting to make a sexual request, more than likely. And you probably already know that. Two, did the white males on the job come to you in any kind of way speaking about this white female? That's a question.
No, not at all. Nobody has. I feel like she's very covert. And,
yeah, well, be careful of that, because white males would, in a means to draw you in to what everybody probably on your job notices, this white female, white and non-white, and they probably take a consensus and see, well, Mr. Thomas is not joining in on the makeup, so they will probably approach you in some sort of way. And what white people do in order to draw non-white black people in, especially, is by using flattery, such as with a white woman with a black male, he gives good advice. I think you may have said something about that, But a lot of times that's very successful, unfortunately, with non-white black people, because especially with males, because nobody listens to us. Nobody listens to black males almost anyway. You know, I'm not saying you, but I'm saying in general, they don't. So when someone finally presumably acts like they pay attention to us, some of us, and I would say too many of us, are so grateful we do it without even thinking. And in turn, it draws that person into whatever mistreatment and or deception they care to do. But it seems like you are handling the situation in a codified way. Thank you.
Yeah, I call that white validation, and I definitely don't have that. I don't want you, but I can definitely tell you that this is a white female that white men don't want. They don't want her. But
you'll be surprised.
No,
you'll be surprised.
Trust me.
they may not want to admit it on the surface because it makes them look bad. But when the lights are off, you know, I mean, come on. I mean, white people have sex with animals. They have sex with animals. So, you know, and one thing I do know, she don't have 4 legs. And it's, you know, so they are quite satisfied with a dog, a chicken, what's the other? A
dolphin,
sheep.
Anything,
In other words, they won't necessarily bring it out in the surface. But yeah, don't take nothing for granted. Is all I'm saying.
Absolutely, I'll definitely take care of right, sir.
Yes, sir. They take them 8 to 80, blind, crippled, and crazy. That's how these white folks get down. They're out of control. I was going to ask you, Thomas, are you the only black male in that area that you're working in?
Nah, the dude who's in charge of me is a black guy.
Okay. Does she do that flirtation stuff with him?
Oh nah, he's been there 20 years. He kind of has his own style of working and doing things. You know, I mean, I haven't seen that, but he definitely gave me the heads up, though. He's like, yo, watch those two right there. And those two fit right together. And, you know, I said, oh, man, if you look at them, oh, my God. So it's like, man. And I could see that this one in particular, that black dudes would like her. You know what I'm saying? Everything but the face. But, yeah, absolutely. Look, nah. You know, just what the firefighter said, that's my codification, man. Y'all sleep with animals. No, ew. I don't want the cooties. I'll get my mom.
I was going to say be really careful, too, because of the fact that she does have money. Even though she might be ugly, when they have money, they really feel like they're entitled to have the attention that they want. And to me, that definitely deserves a cowbell. Just with the whole scene that you described, without question, she was definitely going in that direction. And I would just say, just due to the fact that she is such an important person and she has money, as ugly as she is, be very, very wary of her. And I'll mute my line with that.
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good evening. This is a female caller from New York. I apologize if there's any background noise. I am on the road. To Thomas in New York and the scenario he just described, it doesn't matter if this woman is somebody that the other white men in the office do not want. You are a black male. She could look like one of those animals that the retired firefighter talks about. She could have 4 legs and a tail. Because of the fact that you are a black male and this is war, they will easily and have been known to set black men up just for Emmett Till, you know, the prime example. Just because of the fact that there is interaction between you. So I wouldn't sleep on any of them. I wouldn't sleep on that situation. Stay away from her. There's nothing more treacherous in the workplace than a white woman. on any level, whether they're in contact with black men, black females, in general, period, with each other. So I would just keep that in mind, and I just, that's the first thing that came to my head when you spoke about that and about the white men not wanting her. It doesn't matter if they don't want her, if she's not attractive. There's interaction between the two of you, and if they see or if they get a word from somewhere else and they decide, it's time to get rid of this nigga, they'll do it, and they'll use her to do it. I just wanted to say that, and I'll mute my line.
In reference to what the lady from New York just talked about, Megan, I can't think of her last name, and another white woman got fired, got transferred or whatever you want to call it, from his job. Probably one of the most powerfulest white men in this part of the world. They forced him, and he actually, and from my understanding, I could be wrong, he invented Fox telecast. And because of these two white females who accused him of sexual advances, he was forced to move on from something that he actually helped create. Just to give you how white females can on the job can turn things around for you in a negative in 30 seconds. They did that to a white male, from my understanding.
You know what? I take all y'all advice. I'll preach it to the choir. I'm curving. That's me. I do not, not at all. But I'm familiar with that story. I think one of my favorite newscasters is Megan Kelly. She's very refined, one of the best. And the other one she's a beauty queen. But that guy, the Zionist dude, Ayers or whatever. I'm familiar with that story. But as you see, he's a white man. They're negotiating his removal. It ain't like, a black man, we get fired, They're negotiating. So, he's going to get paid to leave.
You're right about that. You're absolutely right about that. He was able to negotiate some sort of long, drawn-out, I forgot the metaphor cliche that they give for that type of payment, but is certainly enough for any one person to live off on and give it to the next generation on what he's going to get. But you're right. You won't get a black person won't get anything. And it goes in a record that would make it difficult for you to get employed on another job. That's why, like I said, it demands that non-white black people, when they in the people involved in the people activity employment, be codified. Come in prepared, or as soon as you get there, get busy into preparing yourself on a daily basis.
Hey, Gus, have you ever thought about having a show where people just call in about their experiences with white females?
We've done that.
Okay.
In 2011.
I think I remember a couple.
We were supposed to do a follow-up. We just haven't done the part 2, but it was rather interesting hearing lots of different folks chime in and give their experiences just exclusively with tacky and terroristic white women.
Yeah, I just think what we've been hearing lately about different people's experiences with white females and just the general consensus amongst black people that white women are not as dangerous as they actually are, those people who don't really understand how white supremacy works, which is way too many of us, I just thought that would be a good idea. Thanks.
For sure. We had another person wrote in for workplace racism. I'll give out the number really quick before I read. Folks have commentary. Again, this is not spectator listening. If you are a black person, a victim of white supremacy, I am sure that you are dealing with workplace racism on your job right now. And if you have any sort of work history, I'm sure you have dealt with racism, white supremacy on the job. I think all of us benefit from just hearing different situations. If you handled it well, that's great, because we definitely need triumphs. We definitely need illustrations where people were able to figure out some things that work well to neutralize some of these problems and racist activities. If it did not work well, we can learn from that too, because all of us can figure out these are things to look out for on the job, and these are some things that you can do to try to neutralize this from happening to you and causing unnecessary problems. So the number again, 641-715-3640, and the code is 564943#. Press *6 if you would like to participate. So this person wrote in, since we were on the air, this is related to the shooting aspect. That was kind of why I included the NPR clip at the beginning of the program, because I assume with all the things that have been happening the last 2 weeks that has kind of leaked over into what people are experiencing on the job, and either racism coming up or people talking about some of the things that have been happening with these police shootings and the protests and the Republican convention this week, and just however it's manifested, frustration with President Obama. I just assume that is happening. So if people are having to deal with that, and you might have to add an additional level of codification in terms of what you're going to say, how you respond to all of that. So a person wrote in, he's in Texas, mind you. So this person wrote in, he said, so I arrived at work. So this is the day after the police shooting in Dallas. So this would be like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago today, no less. So when I arrived at work that day, I had to close my office door because I didn't want the white people to see my anger and frustration. That morning, I received an email from another black female venting her frustration about the shooting, and she asked to come talk to me. So we talked for maybe less than 5 minutes because we didn't want the white people seeing us converse about the situation. The whole day I was watching news coverage on my computer, and that made me even more angry. But I realized that the whole day, no white person even acknowledged the shootings. Fast forward to the day after the police shooting here, which was just maybe 2 days after. So this would be 2 days after the Alton Sterling, Philando Castile shootings. The hallways were on fire with conversation about the shooting. I even heard someone say that the shooter was mad about the shootings that had taken place just days before, in a dismissive voice. So that let me know they knew what happened to the black males. But the thing about that was that it took for 5 so-called officers to lose their lives for them to even acknowledge the murder of 2 black males. I thought that was trifling. They went on like business as usual. It was white supremacy at its tackiest. No surprise there. Has this been a problem for anyone on the job? Has this been an issue where whites have said anything about, even if it hasn't been, I guess, something that has, impacted you personally, but has this come up where you've heard, observed whites bringing up any of these issues on the job, or what's been going down with the convention over the last week or 2 weeks, I guess now, with all the shootings and what have you?
I think it's a huge act of racism that I haven't heard a peep. And I've been listening. I've been trying to, hear something, anything, I haven't heard a peep. And I'm in the whitest office I've ever worked in. Only 2 other black people, 3. So very, very, I think it's a huge act of racism. I didn't hear nothing about the shootings. They were very forthcoming my first couple of days, but I just played dumb, and maybe they didn't like that. They haven't said anything, and I know they have a lot to say. So I'm very, I think that's a huge act of racism on behalf of white people, not to even mention it.
Well, I'll just say I find it very interesting on my job. They never really talk about incidences that happen. All for them to catch, little comments here or there, but as far as like overt conversation, they really don't. They're very codified about that. But one thing I did notice is that after the shooting in Florida, I heard a couple of, off conversations, people on the side having conversations. I didn't get involved. And then what I started to notice was like all of the homosexual people in the job, it just seemed to be like super gay. Everything was just about being so proud of being gay, and they're wearing T-shirts, company T-shirts that, are basically gay-oriented shirts and things like that. And it was just it was like almost like a hive mentality amongst all of the anti-sexuals. And there's quite a few of them there, so it was just interesting to watch that unfold. What they did do after a black male actually brought up the companies not acknowledging all of these different shootings, from the Florida incident all the way through to the black males being killed to the police. Like, he basically brought this up in a company-wide meeting, and they decided to have like counseling sessions. So I found it very telling, like immediately after that meeting, that's when they decided to have the session. So I decided to go to one. I just wanted to see what they were doing. So I went to the office, sat with this older white male, looked like he was probably in his early 70s, something like that, late 60s, early 70s. And it's like he let me know that there was like confidentiality, like he's not to really speak of anything that I discuss in the room at all, unless it's something that could be of a danger to my coworkers. So if I say something like, I'm on the verge of snapping and shooting up the job, then he'll say something like that. But anything outside of any sort of, either where I'm a danger to myself or I'm a danger to others, it's all basically confidential. So after he gives me that, he asked me if I knew anyone that was involved in any of the incidences. So I said, no, I don't. And I told him, I said, well, I'm really trying to get some information on resources, because I've been trying to do some research as far as some things to help my in-laws and getting some assistance as far as medically speaking, like what some of the options are. So I wanted to actually talk about that. So I brought that up, and I actually did get quite a bit of good information that I'll be able to utilize to try and get them some of the help that they need. He also gave me some techniques for, I guess, de-stressing, because he had asked me if I had any sort of contact with the police before. So I said, as a young person, I've been, mistreated by the police quite a bit. I said I haven't had contact with them in quite a while, but I said, ultimately I've had quite a few negative experiences. I said my father had an extremely almost life-ending experience just for walking a white female coworker home from work. So that was one of the first times I really learned from a very young age, don't mess with white females, was when my dad told me that incident. And it was funny, it was after work. There was after work. He spent time with some coworkers, and there was this white Jewish female that ended up being the last people to leave. So he wanted to be the gentleman and basically make sure she got home safe. And right as he said, just as he was approaching the door to, basically say goodnight and leave, cops rolled up on him and put a gun right to the back of his head, had him, pinned against the wall. It was like something out of Jungle Fever, and his coworker went off on the police, like, what are you doing? Da, da, da. And they were like, yeah, we'll kill you, nigga. What you doing around here? And all this crazy stuff. This was in Brooklyn. And after that, and he told me that probably when I was about, I'm thinking maybe 15. So I never was into white women anyway. And my mother made it clear to me from a very young age, don't ever come home with a white female. So that was never on my mind. But ultimately, we got to have the conversation, and he had asked me about that. So I said, yeah. And I said, well, my thing is, for me, I said, I'm a black male in America. I understand what comes with that. And I said, a lot of the recent shootings essentially, put me mentally on a higher alert. I said, I walk around very conscious anyway. I don't really, I don't like to be aloof when I'm out in public. I said, when I leave my house, I'm very serious. I'm very focused. And, when I get to work, I focus on work. When I leave, I'm very focused and I'm very aware of my surroundings, who's around me, body language, things like that. So I said, I'm very conscious when I'm out and about. I'm never in a state where I'm messing with my cell phone or I'm doing something that's taking my attention in a way where I can't be aware of my surroundings. So he had talked to me about situational awareness, and he had said that my whole mindset was actually very well geared towards my own safety. And I said, well, I understand and I study about, surviving encounters with law enforcement, things like that. So I said, my thing is I try to be just aware and make sure that if I see something that's happening in my immediate area or close enough that it could affect me, that I try to remove myself from those situations as quickly as possible. So he had given me some information on even that kind of stuff. And then I thought about it and I said, well, it was actually pretty good. And he'd given me some other resources to follow up on if I wanted to facilitate, I guess, like dealing with some sort of mental health practitioner. But I've always said if I was to do that, it would have to be a black person. I don't deal with white people. I'm not going to sit there and tell them anything about me for them to refine their racism, their practice of racism against me or any other black person. So, I'm not really thinking about that now. My main focus is my in-laws, but I just found it just very interesting that that they decided to do this after that meeting. And that was basically the only company response to all of those incidents that happened. And like I said, there was never any sort of public discourse on it until this black male just brought this up and how he felt that they were being very, very cold about, dealing with humanity and the fact that these are people on the job and stuff like that. And it just kind of triggered this instant. I just say to me, it's just rhetorical ethics. They're going to have this guy come through, have this conversation, and then they go back to it is what it is, which is fine. I prefer it that way. I'd rather them not talk about anything that could potentially have other black people talking about it, because there's a lot of black people on that job that aren't codified. They don't understand how the system works. They really think they're a part of something with this company, and that, even though, there's a lot of topsy-turvy things happening in the company, there's a lot of them that are highly invested in this plantation that they have there. So I'm actually very glad that they don't talk about those things. But I agree with Thomas. It definitely is an intense act of refined racism, white supremacy, in my opinion, as well, that they don't discuss these things at all. Excuse me.
What you said that stood out was two things, really. Well, first thing is good job for using the resources to your benefit. So that's good. You said that they had LGBT T-shirts for the gay people at your job, rainbow colored shirts. Like, imagine them giving us red, black, and green shirts, for Black History Month or something. Like, could you imagine that? Like, the power the LGBT have, and they try to act like they're being discriminated against. Like, are you serious? And two, with the story with your father, Brooklyn, which literally accurately has 1 million black people, it's still parts of Brooklyn you couldn't do that in today.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Same thing will happen. And they got 1 million black people in Brooklyn.
Matter of fact,
hang on one second. I just want to check in. Are there other folks that we have not heard from who wanted to comment on the all of the shootings and what have you? If that has leached into the workplace, if folks have had to deal with that. Any of the folks that dialed in more recently that we haven't heard from?
Can I be heard?
I thought I heard a female voice. Did I? Maybe I didn't. Let's take 9315. 9315, did you have a comment?
Oh, yeah. So I actually, greetings, everybody. So usually they don't talk about, usually at my job, they don't really talk about this type of stuff around me. But today, a so-called Mexican guy, I happened to be walking, and he walked out the hallway, and he was like, "Hey, what's going on with your peeps?" And I was like, "What the hell are you talking about, dude?" So then he was like, "Yeah, man, like, what's going on with your people and the cops?" He was like, "Freaking, every time I see something, it's like freaking they killing somebody, and then like a black person is killing the cops, and then the cops are killing somebody." And then he was like, "Yeah, and I saw the one today, and freaking he wasn't doing anything." And I was like, and then he said something like, "Oh man, it's like a war." And I was like, "Yeah, it's a war on black people." And then it's another white dude. This is pretty telling though. But anyway, he was like, "Have you heard about this?" Like, we happen to be standing outside. He was like, "Have you heard about this?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" So he shows me a headline on his phone, and it says something like I don't remember. It says like autistic guy shot, or it looked pretty incorrect too, but it was about the one in Florida. So anyway, he's like, yeah, man, I guess he was just laying on the ground, and they shot the son of a B. And then he corrected himself and said I mean man, or he like corrected himself and said like person or whatever. But that's all that happened as far as the shootings for me.
Wow, what's up with your peeps? That is a new one. The caller at 6045. Were you going to comment as well?
Yeah, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Kay in Georgia. And I just want to bring up, it was a black female manager and another white male manager. And I guess they got into a discussion about the shootings, and it started getting escalated, started getting loud, and he started getting very adamant that the two black guys were criminals. And so they had to take it off the floor into a conference room to talk about it. And they stayed up about an hour, and then after they came out, after the hour, everybody came out smiling. And I had already suspected him of being a racist suspect already, because of when Prince died, he was over there laughing and joking, making noises and doing other stuff. But after they came out of the office, after they was in the little meeting, they went and got another black male, and he came into the conference room with them as well. And then that's when they came out smiling and laughing after that hour. And then now he's all talkative and waving at everybody, which he normally didn't do, but now he's more friendly to everybody else when he comes in contact with, because he never spoke to me in passing or anything, but now he has I'm not sure how he feels about what happened, but now he's speaking to me, and that's all I have.
Wow. That is, wow. Like to devote an hour of workplace time to having this conversation about whether these black males that were shot and killed, whether they were criminals or not, because their argument got so riled up. Like, wow, that is noteworthy on the plantation to stop our cotton picking for an hour to go and have this discussion. That is wow. Anybody else, particularly if we have not heard from you, anybody that we've not heard from, if the shootings, the police shootings, what have you, even the Republican convention, because that's been a big part of the convention this week, if that has leached over into the workplace and you have heard things or had to deal with it personally, anybody want to contribute on that?
Can I be heard?
I heard two folks. Guess we'll get
Go
our
ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Caller in Florida.
Yes, thank you, sir. Greetings to Gus, the host, the listeners, and callers. There were a few attempts by the masterfully gifted white supremacist. And when I say gifted, I mean skilled at practicing racism. He never really delved into wanting to bring up the shootings in particular, but he will try and talk about other recent news events, like some Florida players were arrested for using BB guns, and then he will make it seem as though that, well, it's just very just silly and nonsensical that they were arrested, and then to add on to it to show that they aren't ignorant, he said, hey, and this is a guy in the 60s. He says, man, you know how many times I would have gotten arrested for that? Basically saying he's done similar acts or even worse in his day. So he was, I guess, engaged in juvenile acts. So, and then he brought up the politician down here in Florida named, I think, Kareem Brown. And, I did the codified response of, just trying to be informed about it, like I didn't know about it. So, but he didn't have any problem mentioning it to me, asking me about it. He asked if I heard of Kareem Brown,
And I said, it sounds familiar. I said, why do you ask? And he was saying that, something she's been, I guess, charged with something about spending funds or something like that illegally. And I guess she's going to be serving jail time. And I think it's possible that she's going to be serving for the rest of her life. So, I'm thinking in my mind that it is a white supremacist conspiracy, possibly. So those been mainly the only attempts to talk about anything related to the news. But even though I think at his core he wanted to ask me about the shootings, but because I let him know one time that I couldn't take this unmarked suitcase that looked very suspicious, because I told him that I was afraid and I would be perceived incorrectly. And the the black female was like, "Hey, yeah, they would profile him and this and that." And the firefighter that was across the street, he pointed at me and he gave me a thumbs up, like, "Hey, I understood." So, he was like, "Where you get all of that from? What are you scared of?" I said, "Hey," I said, "I had too many experiences, And he was like, well, the best way to fight the fear is just to face it or something." I was like, yeah, I just told him that, I couldn't take that briefcase because, we going to the police department and stuff like that. Like, I was like, I couldn't do that. So somebody else ended up doing it. And just one last thing, I had an incident with a white woman. She's very skilled in how she practices racism. Like, we were going downstairs to get some supplies for the department office or whatever, and there's a black female that basically sells the products or whatever, like pens and notebooks and stuff like that. So when we were done getting the list of what we needed to get, I couldn't remember what I was saying in particular, but, she kind of started to, I guess, pretty much brush me off when I was trying to talk to her. And I ended up basically saying, have a nice day or whatever. And then, she looked at the white woman and she said, "Oh, well, you see that I'm ignoring them, right?" So I started pushing the cart toward the elevator. And this white woman, and she has a history of doing this, she leans over and says, "Oh, but, you wouldn't do that to me, right?" And then, she says, "Oh, no." And then, she starts smiling and stuff like that. So, so I'm going to the elevator, and because I knew she was going to try and ask me about, she didn't mean anything by it, and I didn't mean anything by it. So just like stuff like that. They are very well informed about every single detail, every syllable of what they say. It's intentional to do harm to people whom they classify as not white. And that's all I have.
Fascinating. That pattern of trying to focus on, it's the same thing, just trying to get you to chimp out. I used to say that all the time from the racist websites. They used to terrorize us. They would come and I think they would take, I don't know if it was one people or a group of people, but they would leave like 20, 50 comments a day sometimes. Just all kinds of racist, white supremacist filth. But they like that, just to see you get agitated. Like, we'll just mention all the news clips of black people getting arrested and this person spending money and going there. That alone seems like a total white supremacist conspiracy, because whites do that sort of thing all the time and to the infinite degree. I'm sure they probably got Kareem Brown. I don't know how much money it was, but I'm sure it wasn't that high. If she's going to jail for the rest of her life, to bring that up, and the Florida players, ball players with the BB guns or what have you, just any sort of black misconduct. Like, see, you niggers just can't get your act together. That's why you're getting shot, whatever the context that they bring it up. Did you see that this happened? Did you see that happened? They do that sort of thing just to get you to respond. It's the same type of thing as saying that black people are ignorant, like the bell curve or what have you, so that you get upset and feel like you have to defend. I think the same thing where even though he said it wasn't a white person, it was so-called Mexican, who said, what's up with your peeps, man? It's always something just trying to get you to respond, having you be on the defensive. And that's one that I, particularly in the workplace, I would not fall for that at all. The person at, I think they were going to comment, the person at, is it 2534? Were you going to comment as well, 2534? Not hearing you. Was it 2534 or? Okay, maybe it wasn't them. Oh, okay, yeah, we can hear you. 4950, we can hear you.
Yes, actually the student did come up on a job, but he came up with a non-white black male. He drove past me and he mouthed with the S. So I drove around on the other side and I asked him, was he okay? And he was like, man, every time they keep doing something to us and we can't do anything back. So I'm thinking that he's talking about something that actually happened on the job. So I was like, all right, what happened? And he was like, yeah, the shootings, like that. So then I knew what he was talking about. I didn't say anything. He was like, we got to do something. And this non-white black male, he is in a tragic arrangement. But then I noticed everything that he said after that, and it is always the man. So he's like, yeah, these white men, they keep doing X, Y, Z. So I didn't say anything. I gave the codified, somewhat nonverbal response. I was like, and I drove off. And then I had a workplace experience that I thought about that happened a few years ago. There was a white supervisor, and he came up to me. I was working on a production line, and he said to me and another non-white black male, he was like, "Do you guys want to hear something?" And I wasn't codified at all then, but I knew that this was a practice of racism. So we were like, "Yeah, what?" Like that. We're thinking like he's going to say something in reference to us getting a raise or something like that. He was like, "Why did all the black people in the army get killed?" So we're thinking like this is somewhat about to be a history lesson. So I looked at the black guy and he looked at me. So then we both looked at the white guy. We're like, we don't know why. He laughed and said because when the sergeant yelled, "Get down," they all danced. And that was all I had to share.
Oh man, that to me, it had all of the writing of a racist joke on it. Like the moment that I heard, like, I mean, it's so many of those, and I guess that's because that's been something I've talked about for years here at the Cows. Those racist jokes, in terms of that is such a massive part of racist codification and just transmitting white culture. It's just those little 5-10 second little ditties and what have you. That is a massive aspect of racist culture and has been for centuries. But that's the sort of thing I would love on the job. My code would be I would just pull out my pen and pad and write. Like, wow, on it all the black people, they broke out. Fascinating. Thank you for sharing. Keep right on rolling with my day. But that day, in my view, I think whites, they also get a kick out of that sort of thing when you do not realize that that's what it's going to be, is some sort of tacky, trifling, racist commentary. Where it's like, oh, we got them. They didn't even, they thought I was going to say something serious or whatever the case may be. And bang, able to get my racist joke in. Love it. Get my moment of tackiness for the day. That'll, get me through the next hour. They love that sort of thing. But, yeah, the racist, that would just be my standard code. I would just pull out my pen and pad and begin writing any sort of racist joke. Anybody that we have not heard from, anybody who dialed in that we have not heard from, did you have commentary if any of what has transpired over the past week has leaked out on the job? Did we get everybody who dialed in with a hand up? There's nobody that we missed. I'm just making sure. Nobody that we have not heard from.
May I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Gus. Good evening to all the callers, all the listeners, everybody that gave commentary, comments, input. I was just listening. It's an impressive show as usual, and I have a couple comments. One, I usually I drank coffee all day. So, I used to be and still to some degree a Dunkin' Donuts fan. So, I used to frequent Dunkin' Donuts more, but now, I slow down. But anyways, I was at Dunkin' Donuts, and for the most part, they're run by, most of the Dunkin' Donuts in my area are run by Indian people, I guess so to speak, melanated people from the India region, and it's odd to see how white supremacy has just been so refined and different within different nationalities or cultures. Just how it is, how they act differently towards not even just black and white, but the different shades of black and white. So, anyways, I went in to get a cup of coffee, and white lady in front of me. Very cheerful. The exchange is cheerful. The giving the money and all the coffee and smiles. And so I go up, and it's somewhat cheerful, but not the same. Which I'm not expecting, anyways. It's I just want my coffee. You know what I mean? So they usually keep they have TVs on the inside, so they usually keep them on like CNN. So it just happened to be, I forget which day it was that Melania, however you say her name, Mrs. Trump gave her her plagiarized speech, and they were on speaking about it and saying they do a damage control, I guess you could say. And so I made a comment to the guy that was fixing the coffee. That she plagiarized. Do you know that she got that from such and such? So he just laughed, because he knew. The white woman that was in front of me that had just ordered, she hadn't completely walked away so she could hear me out of earshot. So she kind of made that kind of expression and was like, well, I guess I know who you voting for. And I was like, yep, nobody. And I walked out and I left. But I just found it fascinating, but I also found it highly entertaining. And I also had a comment about where my wife is employed. The owner, he's an Indian guy as well, and it's odd. His exchanges with his employees are, he's kind of down. He's with them. You know what I mean? He's on that lower level. He's down with them. He works with them and stuff like that. And even some of the commentary is direct geared towards, I'm with you on this. I got you here. Let me help you, show you how to do this. But he does a lot of catering and pandering towards what's around, and it's surrounded. The area is mostly white area, and he panders to them and to their, come in, kind of talk, give a joke here too, whatever. But when they leave, or when none of them are around, I had exchanges with him where he spoke about a white woman having expensive car and a nice job and whatnot, but wasn't able to leave a tip. You know what I mean? But a couple days after this exchange, the exchange I had with him, the same, if I'm not mistaken, the same woman, he ended up just to see him speaking with her and it's so nice, like taking it past the actual doing business of his business. It went past that, and I found it very odd, just the way how white supremacy operates. Because in my eyes, that's what it was. And he also inside his place of business, he has a TV, and he keeps the TV. He used to keep it on CNN. Well, actually, let me back up. He used to keep it on between like CNN or TNT or ESPN, mostly ESPN Sports. So as the crowd kind of, because as I said, the area is very white. As the crowd kind of mixed in a couple more melanated people, he kind of switched it from just straight CNN. So, straight CNN, those just straight news coverage from CNN. Then, as things ramped up with Trump and with Hillary Clinton, and just the whole rhetoric behind those two, he cut the TV off. Like he just cut it off completely. And I thought about it. I said, well why would he cut the TV? The TV always generated more people sitting down there, eating their food, maybe buying more food, while they're sitting down watching TV, being entertained. But I couldn't really understand. I still don't really understand why he cut the TV off completely instead of just leaving it from the change from the sports and to the news. So I was very inquisitive about that, and that's all I have for tonight. And thanks, Gus. Great show as well as usual. And I'll mute my line.
Appreciate that. I was expecting you to say Fox, not CNN. That kind of threw me off in terms of my expectation a little bit. But then you said you turned it off. You turned it off completely, as opposed to having it on CNN or what have you. Is anybody that we missed completely? We have about a half hour left in the program. I want to make sure that there's nobody that we missed completely. Is anybody that we have not heard from at all?
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, can I be heard?
Let's get.
Okay, that person can go first.
Oh,
the
okay.
other person can go first.
Right on.
Okay, thank you. Good night, Gus. Can I be heard? Clearly?
Say that one more time, sir. I didn't hear you clearly.
Good evening to the callers. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. My workplace racism to today. Well, my day pretty much started on my way to work, and a race soldier got behind me on the highway, and he was trailing me for about at least 2 miles. But we didn't put the lights on or anything like that. But sure had me nervous. I had my child in the back. I was taking him to school, so I was definitely nervous. So that kind of set the tone for my day at work. But today was the first day returning back to school. I work in a middle school, and we have some PDs for the next 2 weeks before the students return. And we lost a few staff, a few non-white people, black staff, and they've replaced them with some non-white, but more white people, white women in particular. And today at the first day of PD, kind of noticed white people grouping up, especially some of those that were the first year last year, grouping up with some of the more senior teachers that have been there for a few years. The room just kind of looked kind of odd. All the black folks sitting at one table or two tables, maybe a few other non-white people sitting among some white folks, but it's pretty segregated. But they kind of mixed us up for the PD. It's about 80 of us. But it was just interesting observing white folks, and with me in particular, I think there's these two, but I'm pretty sure these two white teachers that are practicing racism. I don't know if they're trying to get me fired. Probably. I'm pretty sure they don't want me there, but they're trying to control my schedule and trying to control which grade level I work on. I guess so I don't be in their classrooms. So it's just been an interesting day, on the plantation. White supremacy is as usual, but today set the tone for me. Pretty much how it's going to be for the rest of the year. And that's it. Thank you for taking my call.
Sorry you had to endure that with the officer trailing you, starting your day out with your child in the car, no less. But that is the system that we're under. Reminded me there was an incident not that long ago. It was a black male. This was in Virginia. It was a black male. He was taking his child to school, and there was some sort of automobile accident. Nothing major, but collision with another vehicle, and the white male threatened to kill the black male. His child got out of the vehicle brandishing a weapon. Just got really bad, which I've stated consistently. Things can get really bad very quick under this system. But I'm sorry you had to start your day off with that. That right there is stressful. Just having to deal with that, those type of daily incidents of terrorism and abuse, having to deal with on the job, the police, the many different manifestations of white terrorism that we deal with. But that takes an impact on our health and well-being, just that right there, and even our relationships, how we relate to our children, spouses, attempted wives, attempted husbands, even ourselves, just having to deal with that. And then you deal with that and go to the job. And then I appreciated you including that the black educators being replaced. They did get some non-white replacements, but they also brought in a lot of white replacements, and specifically white female replacements, race soldiers. That's who we're sending our children to in the public school system. The other caller that spoke up. Oh yeah, go ahead, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, and also what I did notice, at least 3 white women got promotions. One of them, she came late every single day for last year. And her reason being, she said they gave her an accommodation to come to school late, to take her son to school. And I didn't really understand that, but that was pretty much the explanation. And it was never questioned when I brought it up, because it directly affected my schedule. But she was actually promoted this year to like a coordinator, directing coordinator. And the school does make a big fuss about being on time, So I thought that was interesting. I had a meeting with the director, kind of an informal meeting. Apparently, he's under the impression that I don't like him. Those were the exact words that he used to me. He's a non-white, non-black male. And, during this meeting, we talked about various issues, things that happened or whatnot. And I brought up this particular instance, because it was like literally every day. And he said that there's a way that if a teacher, has a family or, has some early obligations, they can come late, but the time is deducted from their paychecks, something like that.
And he didn't really know, he's like, because he said like something like that, 4%, 8%, whatever. But he wasn't too sure. He's the director. But I didn't really believe him. I didn't think, I don't think she was docked or anything like that, because her supervisor is a white female, and she gave her promotion. So I don't know. I don't think she was docked though. But no non-white people got that accommodation, and there's at least maybe two of us that have families and children and stuff like that. But yeah, we weren't even given that option. But yeah, and another one of the white teachers, she was pissed off at the non-white director at the end of the last year, and she vented to me about him and all kinds of things. I just pretty much listened, and then she said she wasn't coming back, and yada yada, all this kind of stuff. And lo and behold, she was there today for the first day of the new year with a new title and promotion. Yeah, that's just standard operation. White people always get their way. All right, thank you. That's it.
Theme we've had for not just for today, but consistently in terms of rules not being applied consistently, which is, Mr. Fuller talks about that all the time in terms of that being a constitutional violation. It's supposed to be equal treatment, and there being lots of details and things that you can get access to if you know. That's why I consistently say, try to get as much information as you can on the job. But this white woman is allowed to come late, and they've worked it out in her schedule. And it seems that this is something that can be allowed if you know about it, and if the white person in charge, if they make the decision that, okay, well, we will allow you to do this, and the black people not being allowed to do so. But just, it seemed from what you said that a lot of people that you didn't even know that this was an option to begin with, much less being approved for it. But that type of thing, I've seen that consistently in my work history, and just since I've been studying racism, that happens all the time. We're just not being informed, where whites withhold information, so you don't even know all the options that you have as a black person, much less then do they allow you to, exercise those options. The other caller that spoke up simultaneously, did you have a comment you wanted to get in as well?
Yes, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay, peace to all the callers, the hosts, and to the platform. I just want to mention, like, where I heard Caucasian or racist white supremacist suspect or whatever talking to a black non-white person at work, and this was maybe the day after the guy got shot for, he had a concealed carry or whatever. And the white guy goes, he's joking around with him or something, and he's like, yeah, you go ahead and reach for your license and see how far you get. And he's talking directly to the black person, and then the black person just kind of laughs with him, and then he said something to the effect like, you're one of the older types or something, he said. So I didn't understand that when I saw it, because if it had been me in the situation, I wouldn't have allowed that conversation to go down like that. And I just saw that as an incident of being too laughing and ha-ha playing with the racist white supremacists. And then when it's something like that, they're not going to spare you. They going to find a way to sneak a joke in or something, wherever they at, concerning that. And then another disgusting thing I would like to comment on is the Republican convention, or even the state of politics right now. And, I kind of just listened to the Pence guy yesterday, and
This
when
is
he did mention.
this is just workplace racism. This is not general purpose. You can say that for Saturday, though. Definitely say that for Saturday.
Okay, I see. Workplace racism. Let me find one more. Let's see. Yeah, I just, I don't know. I guess I white people on the job just been, same old, same old. I'm against working under white people and having to go through the things we go through. So that's all I wanted to say.
Appreciate that. Definitely your commentary on Mr. Pence. If you can just remember it, share it, the compensatory call in this Saturday. We will definitely be looking forward to hear commentary about that then. The caller at 9315, were you going to comment, sir?
Yeah, I was going to say something real quick on the politics, because this has to do with workplace racism. But, so, at our dealership, we actually had a voters poll, like a voting poll, and they had it set up. They had like three, because I'm in like Los Angeles, so they had like 3 Democrat ones, 2 Republican ones, and then 1 like independent or libertarian, like, just a random one stuck in there. So our GM of the dealership actually used this platform to vote. So he voted on that day that we had it. I guess they call it super. I honestly don't know what it is. But he voted on that day, and he just walked right up, like he was kind of trying to be sly. Like he did it like while there weren't a lot of people there. But I was paying attention to most of the people that walked in. I was just sitting in the office. I was just paying attention to the people who were voting. Like I actually took a tally of like how many black people voted Democrat and Republican, but I lost it. But anyway, so he goes straight to the Republican thing, and I'm assuming he's voting for Donald Trump. Mind you, his workforce is probably 80% Mexican, and of those Mexican people, I would say at least half are illegal. So this guy is voting for a guy who's directly gonna affect not only like his workforce, but his money too. Because if white people are gonna be working these jobs, they're gonna have to pay him more. So this guy is like basically going against his own best interest. And even him just voting out in the open, if a bunch of the Mexican people would have seen that, like they could have did a strike or anything. Like he just had, like they just don't care at all, man. But that's all I had.
Fascinating. I'm not surprised there's been more explicit as it rolled. That is interesting. They even had a whole poll set up on the job at your workplace. That is wow.
Yeah, they do it so you could try to get the people to come in and vote and buy a car too. But I don't think anybody who voted that day bought a car.
Fascinating. We have approximately 15 minutes left. Did we miss anybody? Is there anybody who dialed in, who had a hand up that we have not heard from at all?
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I'm calling from New Orleans. I was just calling to give an update for workplace. And I think I had called in a few weeks ago about my workplace situation with my former manager who was transferred because I had put in a complaint about some issues in reference to policy and procedure. And basically I just, pretty much stuck to, the employee handbook on certain policies as far as fraternization amongst management and stuff like that. And because I later found out that the reason why he was scared that I was going to go to corporate was because he was plotting to try and get transferred to the North Shore. And the North Shore, I guess, is Slidell area where I guess that's predominantly white, and it was a new store location opening up there. So he was trying to get promoted to that brand new store, and because there was a corporate complaint, that took him out of the running of that. And it was a anonymous complaint, and in reference to a situation that had happened with another employee that broke, nonetheless policy and stuff. So they were just trying to save him and his reputation. And then, I later found out that basically he had been transferred several other times for similar instances of reported racism and stuff like that among from employees and stuff. So he's no longer there. There's a black female there. Overall, it's okay, but I guess the ramifications of the other employee who is a non-white black female that I've had problems with in the past, I guess you would describe her as, you said she's a victim, but you would identify her, I guess, as a house Negro, if you will. I know that's not something we're supposed to say, but to give you an idea of what type of person you're dealing with. And so, like I said, it's better than having him there, but you still have the other problem that was being allowed to go on throughout the store. But just the importance of your employee handbook and taking notes, documentation. Again, white people can change the rules at any time, but like I said, it's just policy and procedure that I kind of stuck to on this one this time. And I had copious amounts of notes and documentation. But, also, I have another situation that I had to report and get our LP manager involved with two other employees, unfortunately, who are two black females, where one of them was clocking in for the other. And I don't know, like I said, it's my first time being in semi-management type role, and it is frustrating and hard with some of the shenanigans that we get ourselves wrapped up in for whatever reason. And even when you try to help some of our people, sometimes I just realized that it's a lot of people that aren't going to get it. That's something that I've been struggling with, and just really have lost the patience for even caring, because it just, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm in New Orleans, and this is not a healthy place to be, but yeah, so that's pretty much what I've been struggling with. So they may be in the process of getting terminated after this. So.
know many of our listeners, that is the position that they have taken, that they just do not invest a whole lot of time in trying to help or go out of their way to aid other black people on the job, other victims of racism. Just saying that, hey, a lot of victims, because of the system, we've been so brain trashed that, you know, we're not receptive, or we're not going to make the changes, or they might even turn around and try to go and snitch on you to white people and try and cause problems for you. So they just don't do it. And just, hey, if they're going to mess up and things go bad, that's on them. I'm not going to jeopardize my employment or my sanity by even getting involved. Some people, that's the position that they've taken, and, you know, you do what you do on the job. I would request we not refer to people as house Negro or any derivatives on the program, because that's just name calling, in my opinion, unless the person has branded themselves, unless they're calling themselves that's just name calling. I'm sure there's a better title that we can come up with other than victim of racism. I'm sure we can, figure out a better way of articulating what it is that we want to say, addressing that person.
I did suggest a Muppet the last time, but
that's just name calling too. But with the job situation, I think even when you get rid of the white person, that's why I think I even have in the description, they can take the white person out that's been racist and trashy or whatever, and they can even bring in a black person, and you'll still have problems. That's just the way things are set up. I would say stick to doing the exact same thing that you've been doing that worked well in dealing with the racist, knowing the policy and procedure, take notes, and I think that's even what the person wrote in, the law enforcement official who wrote in, who said he's got, I think, 4 years close to retirement, and he said he too is in the quote-unquote supervisor position. He just goes by the book with everybody, and that way he can do the same thing he does with the whites that he does with the non-white employees. I'm just going to go by the book and not deviate from policy and procedure and take notes. That will work regardless, even if you have, because it seems like you've had problems with black people on the job there too, not doing the correct thing and being nasty and rude in dealing with you. I think you've talked about that before too. So I would just keep doing exactly what you've been doing. It seems like that should work. That should be effective regardless of whether you're having to deal with other white employees, coworkers, or non-white coworkers.
Okay.
Going to be difficult. I think I've heard Mr. Fuller say that even if you are having some success on the job, it is probably no time to celebrate because they've got some other things waiting for you by the time you get there tomorrow. And that might even come in the form of sending black employees, non-white employees, and they will be the ones to make things difficult for you so that you can now no longer say that it's racism because there are no white people around you anymore. Lots of different ways that they can work things. Did we miss anybody? Last few minutes of the broadcast. Appreciate the update, Princess. Great work. Another encouragement for policy and procedure and note-taking. Do we miss anybody? Anybody that we have not heard from at all? Grand, think we nailed. I'm sorry, somebody going to say something?
No, I was just saying that since nobody said nothing, I was just going to say I remember a workplace racism situation.
Right on. If you want to share, we'll see if we have time, how much we can get in. But, yeah, go ahead, sir.
Okay. So basically I was in a situation where I didn't get paid for all of the days that I worked because I didn't clock in one day with my badge. I told the racist white supremacist suspect supervisor 3 times that I didn't clock in with the badge. What do I need to do? Is there anything I need to do? He said no. And long story short, he forgot. So I got my check that day, or I got paid that day, and I was short some hours. And so, it's like if they short you some hours or whatever, they want you to kind of wait till the next week or whatever. But I was persistent. And so on our line that we work on, we, as a team, we'll let each other go on a break or whatever. So I was on my break scheduled by my team, and the supervisor knows that. And so I go to, the HR office, and there's this racist white supremacist suspect female in there. She's a supervisor. And she goes, I'm waiting. She was dealing with somebody, one of her employees, and talking to the HR person, and I walked in, and then I kind of just waited. I let them talk, and then she was like, well, what do you want? And I was like, I told her what happened and whatnot, and then she just got real nasty and rude and was like, are you on your 30-minute break? And I told her, I said no. I said I'm on break. You know, like we scheduled our own break, and then she was just talking about the 30-minute break that the company gives you or your lunch break, but I was on a different break and I was trying to take care of some business. And she was just real nasty and rude, and she was like, you need to just go back to work right now because you're not basically supposed to be in our presence right now. And so what I did was I ignored her to the fullest, and I stood there and I continued to take my 15-minute break that was scheduled by me and my team, and I asked the question that I wanted to ask, and then I left. And I hope that got under her skin because if she had just told me the policy or whatever in some type of common way or in some type of way I can deal with, then I probably would have just listened to her and just left. But because she was acting like a racist white supremacist while she said it, I ignored her in her face, and I wanted her to feel that. And so that's all I want to say.
Widespread contempt. That was one thing I did want to make sure I got in. Just hearing this, the contempt for black people, constant, and it comes in a lot of different forms, whether it's the jokes that happen on the job, or whether it's black people not getting the same opportunities as whites, where they can come late, and even get it in their contract where they can come late and get promotions and get all their raises and everything, and that's not provided for you, where we're not trained, where whites come on the job and they're treated really well and they get the best training, and we come on the job and they give us a really half-hearted training where they don't want to do it, and you're set up to fail from the very beginning, from the day that you come on. Just total contempt for black people, constantly on the job like that. Just really acknowledging that's what we're dealing with. That is war that's being waged constantly, all areas of people activity, and this is what you can expect on the job. That's why I say it's very important to be honest about that, not lie. I didn't have people, talking about these issues when I started my work career. I think a lot of other people have been in that position as well. Just having that understanding so that you're not surprised, and so that you don't have the same emotional toll where you are feeling as though this is something personal, that you did something wrong, feeling bad, feeling hurt about all of this, as opposed to just recognizing this is what it means to be white. This is what racism, white supremacy is, how it works, and this contempt for black people is going to be there. It's nothing that I did. This is just what it means to be white. It's in their DNA, as Norm Stamper said yesterday. We pretty much did our 3 hours. We will certainly be here for the compensatory call in this Saturday for folks who want to comment on the convention, anything not related to workplace racism, but the convention that happened this week and what's down with Donald Trump. Ample time this Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Dial in. We'll be looking forward to hearing from folks. We'll be here tomorrow as well. The second installment, the book club, Blood Brothers. This is week 2, the fatal friendship between Muhammad Ali, Minister Malcolm X. Ramona Africa should be here with the MOVE organization this coming, I think it's Monday. I have to double check in my calendar, but I think it's this coming Monday. Their house was bombed in 1985, May 1985 in Philadelphia. Not only did they burn the entire MOVE house down, killing 11 people, 5 of them children, they burned down the entire neighborhood, more than 60 black houses burned to the ground in Philadelphia. Significant. They are doing a major conference next year. They're going to come on to talk about some of what to expect at the conference and some of the history of MOVE, but also significant because with the situation in Dallas, where they used the robot drone, if you will, to detonate and kill the alleged sniper Micah Xavier Johnson. They said the only thing that is even comparable to what they did in this domestic policing situation is the MOVE situation. So I'm eager to hear their thoughts about what's transpired in Dallas as well. But that'll be coming up on Monday. Folks have other comments, questions. If you cannot find something in the archives, gripes, feel free, drop an email, untiljustice@gmail.com, untiljustice@gmail.com. Huge thanks for all the folks for sharing, writing in. Definitely appreciate the people that can't call in live, writing. If you want to write between now and next week, we will be sure to include next Thursday. I hope this program is constructive and is of some value for people being able to do a better job managing the stress and the terrorism that we have to deal with as black people on the job, getting some strategies and just getting a better understanding of why these things are happening and what we can do about it to try to neutralize some of this. Again, we'll be here tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I will say once again, sobriety would be best under conditions of white terrorism. Anyone, if you're having cookouts, I know that's something I had to do. They had cookouts or any get-togethers, employment-related, because it's summertime. If you have to attend at all, sobriety for sure would be the best policy there. If you're going to be out and about, if you're going to the beach or doing anything else in a vehicle, you certainly do not want to be intoxicated. If you're in an automobile, that is as a driver, passenger, even as a pedestrian, we do not want to make it easy for the Daniel Holtzclaws, Darren Wilsons to terrorize, abuse, even take your life. Let's do everything we can to make phenomenal decisions, keep ourselves as safe as possible, you and anybody you might be responsible for. Buckle up if you're going to be in a vehicle. Let's do everything we can to minimize contact with enforcement officers. I will say once again, worst combination, certainly in my view, one of the worst combinations in the universe. Whites, alcohol should be avoided at all costs. With that, we will catch you all in about 24 hours. Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cal signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim.
I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.